The snow had stopped falling an hour ago, leaving the forest road silent except for the wind and the distant howls of the border patrol. Kara Lawrence lay in a drift beside the path, her white ceremonial mating dress soaked through with blood and snow, her left arm bent at an angle that promised agony if she tried to shift. But she couldn't shift. The wolfsbane in her system made sure of that. Blood had dried along her temple, where her head struck a rock when Brent threw her from the carriage, her almost mate, the beta she'd trusted since childhood. She remembered his face in those final moments. Not the face of the boy she'd grown up with. Something colder, more calculating. "You know too much, Kara," he'd said, his eyes flashing amber. "I gave you a choice. Accept the marking. Keep quiet about what you saw. Play your role. But you had to be righteous. You had to threaten to tell the Alphaking." Now she was dying. And no one was coming. But someone did come. Someone who would change everything. If you want to know who found her in that frozen forest, and what choice he made that no one expected, tap that like button right now. Because this story of enemies, mates, and impossible choices is just beginning. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Chapter 1. The Alphaking's Discovery. The cold had stopped hurting 20 minutes ago. Kara knew what that meant. Her body was giving up, surrendering to the inevitable. The wolfsbane coursing through her veins kept her wolf trapped, unable to heal, unable to shift, unable to do anything but whimper helplessly in the back of her mind. "I'm sorry," she thought to her wolf. "I'm so sorry." Her wolf didn't answer. She was too weak, poisoned by the same toxin that was slowly killing them both. Kara closed her eyes, watching her breath form small clouds that dissipated into nothing. How had it come to this? 3 days ago, she'd been preparing for her mating ceremony with Brent Hunter, the beta of Crescent Moon Pack. She'd known him her entire life, trusted him, maybe even loved him. In the way you love someone familiar and safe. Then she'd found the ledgers, hidden in his father's study during what was supposed to be a pleasant visit to discuss wedding arrangements. Numbers that didn't match. Investments that didn't exist. Dozens of pack members, widows, orphans, elderly wolves who couldn't hunt anymore, all of them being systematically robbed. When she'd confronted Brent, demanding he make it right before she would accept his mark, he'd smiled. That same charming smile he'd used when he proposed. "You're very noble, Kara," he'd said. "And very foolish." The next morning, he'd suggested a romantic carriage ride through the forest to clear the air before the ceremony. She'd believed him because she'd wanted to believe him. Fool. Now she lay in the snow on what she'd learned too late was the border between Crescent Moon Territory and Northern Territory. Brent had planned it perfectly. When she didn't return, he'd express concern, organize a search party in the wrong direction, and eventually declare it a tragic accident. She insisted on walking ahead when the wheel stuck, he'd say. "I lost sight of her in the storm. Her family would grieve. The ceremony would be cancelled. Brent would wait a respectable period, then mate someone else. Someone who didn't ask questions. And the families he was robbing would never know." The sound of paws, massive paws pounding through snow, made Kara's eyes snap open. Not hoofbeats. Paws. Her wolf whimpered, trying to respond, but the wolfsbane kept her caged. Kara tried to call out, but her voice was barely a whisper. Her throat was too cold, too damaged. "Please," she thought desperately. "Please see me." The massive black wolf emerged from the tree line, easily the size of a small horse. An alpha. Even through her fading vision, Kara could tell. The sheer power radiating from him made the air itself feel heavier. His eyes molten silver locked onto her. And even through the wolfsbane haze, she felt it. The pull, the recognition, the undeniable, unavoidable, universe-mandated connection that every wolf knew existed but most never found. No, not him. Anyone but him. The wolf shifted mid-stride, bones cracking and reforming in seconds. The transformation was fluid, powerful, controlled in a way that spoke of centuries of bloodline breeding. The man who stood before her was naked, steam rising from his skin in the cold air, muscles rippling as he moved toward a pack stashed in a nearby tree. Kara's fading vision focused on his face as he pulled on emergency clothes, dark pants, a heavy shirt left unbuttoned. Elias Collins, the Alphaking of the Northern Territories, The man whose father her pack had killed 20 years ago in a border dispute that had never been resolved. The man who'd sworn at his father's funeral, according to pack legend, to destroy every crescent moon wolf alive. The man standing over her now with those silver eyes widening in recognition. "You," he growled, and Kara saw the war happening behind those eyes. Hatred. 20 years of it, bred into bone and blood. Duty, an alpha's obligation to protect wolves in his territory. And something else. Something that made his wolf surge forward, made his hands clench, made every muscle in his body go rigid with denial. The mate bond. She was dying, and the moon goddess had chosen this moment to reveal that her fated mate, the one wolf in all the world made specifically for her, was her pack's greatest enemy. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. Elias stood frozen, staring down at her. Kara could smell the conflict rolling off him in waves. Cedar and winter, mixed with fury and confusion, and something darker. "Leave me," she wanted to say. "Just leave me and let it end." But her wolf, even poisoned and dying, surged forward with the last of her strength, reached for him through the bond that was forming whether either of them wanted it or not. "Mate," her wolf whispered. "Mate. Save us." Elias's jaw clenched so hard Kara heard his teeth grind together. His eyes flashed between silver and his human brown, his wolf fighting for control. Then he made his choice. He knelt beside her, his large hands surprisingly gentle as they moved over her injuries. Professional, clinical. Checking for broken bones, bleeding, signs of internal damage. "Wolfsbane," he muttered, catching the scent even through the blood and snow. His head snapped up, eyes scanning the forest. "Who did this?" Kara tried to answer, but only a weak sound escaped. "Don't talk." His hands moved to her face, tilting her head carefully. "Can you hear me? Blink once for yes." She blinked. "Good. You're in bad shape. Wolfsbane, broken arm, possibly broken ribs, hypothermia." His voice was clipped, controlled. "I'm going to lift you. It's going to hurt." He didn't wait for acknowledgement. He simply slid his arms under her with surprising care and lifted. Kara gasped as pain exploded through her body. Her vision went white, then gray, then started to fade entirely. "No." His voice cut through the darkness. "You will not die. Do you hear me? That's an alpha order." The command in his voice, the undeniable weight of an alpha's will, crashed into her like a physical force. Her wolf, even poisoned, responded. Submitted. Fought to obey. Kara's eyes flew open, her breath coming in painful gasps. "That's it," Elias said, carrying her toward where his wolf must have stashed clothes and supplies. "Stay with me, little wolf. You don't get to die on my land. That's not how this ends." He positioned her carefully on his horse, a massive black stallion that stood perfectly still despite the scent of blood and wolfsbane. Elias mounted behind her, one arm holding her secure against his chest. His scent wrapped around her. Cedar and winter, and something wild that her wolf recognized on an instinctive level. "Mate," her wolf sighed. "Safe. Mate will protect." "The nearest settlement is 15 kilometers, Elias said, his voice rumbling against her back. "Can you stay conscious that long?" "I'll try," Kara whispered. "Try harder. I didn't find you just to watch you die." The ride blurred into fragments. The warmth of his body behind her, the steady rhythm of the horse, his voice occasionally asking questions to keep her awake. "What's your name?" "Kara." "Who did this to you?" She couldn't answer that one. Couldn't form the words. "Stay with me, Kara." She must have lost consciousness despite his efforts, because the next thing she knew, she was being carried into warmth and light. Voices surrounded her. A woman's cry of alarm. Elias's steady commands cutting through the chaos. "Send for a healer. Hot water, blankets, now. And someone bring me wolfsbane antidote. Now." Kara was laid on something soft. A bed. Hands removed her wet clothing, replaced it with dry linen. The healer came, his touch impersonal as he set her arm, bound her ribs, stitched the wound on her temple. Through it all, she heard Elias's voice in the background, speaking to the innkeeper. "She'll need the room for at least a week. Send the bill to Thornridge Manor. And send word to no one without my permission." Is that clear? Thornridge Manor, the Alphaking's seat of power, the fortress that had stood for 300 years as the symbol of Northern Territory strength, the last place any Crescent Moon wolf should ever go. Kara tried to protest, but darkness was pulling her under. The last thing she felt was a gentle hand touching her hair, and a voice rough with emotions she couldn't name whispering something she couldn't quite hear. Then nothing. Chapter 2. A Devil's Bargain. Kara woke to firelight and silence. The room was small but clean, the bed soft beneath her back. Her left arm was splinted and bound, her ribs wrapped tight enough to make breathing shallow but manageable. Her head throbbed with a dull ache that spoke of recent injury, but the sharp, poisonous burn of wolfsbane was finally fading. She was warm, alive, and completely unsure if that was a blessing or a curse. "You're awake." Kara turned her head carefully toward the voice. Elias sat in a chair beside the window, watching her with those pale silver eyes that seemed to see too much. In the firelight, his features were sharp, strong jaw, straight nose, dark hair touched with silver at the temples despite looking no older than his early 30s. He wore no coat now, just a white shirt and dark vest, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked like a man who had better things to do than sit vigil over a stranger, except she wasn't a stranger. Not anymore. The mate bond hummed between them, quieter than it should be because neither had accepted it, but present nonetheless, an invisible thread connecting them whether they wanted it or not. "How long?" Kara asked, her voice rough from disuse. 2 days. "The healer says you're fortunate. Another hour in the cold and we'd be having a different conversation. Thank you." The words felt inadequate. "You saved my life." "Yes." He stood, walking to the small table beside her bed where a pitcher of water waited. He poured a glass and helped her sit up enough to drink, his hands steady and impersonal. "Now you're going to tell me why I had to." Kara drank slowly, buying time. The water was cool, soothing her throat, but it couldn't wash away the dread settling in her stomach. "I don't understand," she said finally. "You were left in the middle of a forest road during a snowstorm." He set the glass down, his gaze never leaving her face. "Your injuries suggest you were thrown from a moving carriage. Someone wanted you dead, or at least gone." He crossed his arms. "Who?" She could lie. She should lie. But what was the point? He'd find out eventually. Alphas always did. "Brent Hunter," she said quietly. "Beta of Crescent Moon Pack." Something flickered in Elias's eyes. Recognition. Interest. And underneath it, a cold fury that made Kara's wolf whimper. "You're the Crescent Moon Bride," he said. It wasn't a question. "The one who disappeared 3 days before the mating ceremony. Your pack sent out search parties." "Did they?" Kara laughed bitterly. "How thorough were these searches?" "Your beta claimed you ran away. Got cold feet about mating above your station." Elias's eyes narrowed. "But that's not what happened, is it?" Kara looked at the fire, watching the flames dance. "I found ledgers. Hidden in his father's study during what was supposed to be a pleasant visit to finalize ceremony arrangements. Numbers that didn't match. Investments that didn't exist." She took a breath, feeling the anger rise again, the same anger that had made her confront Brent despite knowing it was dangerous. Dozens of pack members. Widows whose mates died in border skirmishes. Orphans left with nothing. Elderly wolves who couldn't hunt anymore and relied on pack support. All of them being systematically robbed. Her voice hardened. "When I told Brent I couldn't accept his mark unless he made it right, he decided I was a problem that needed to disappear. And you believed he'd take you for a romantic carriage ride after that conversation?" "I wanted to believe people could change." Kara met his eyes. "Clearly I was wrong." Elias studied her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It was a small, cold thing that didn't reach his eyes. "You threatened to expose the hunters." "Yes." "You have proof?" "I saw the ledgers. I can identify which investments are fraudulent. I know names, dates, amounts." She paused. "But I don't have documentation. Brent has that. But you remember enough to destroy them. If anyone would believe me." Kara laughed again, the sound hollow. "Who would?" I'm a nobody with no family connections and no credibility. Brent will say I'm lying out of spite. That I couldn't handle the pressure of mating a beta and ran away, then made up stories when I was found. Elias walked back to his chair, settling into it with the grace of a predator at rest. What if someone with credibility backed your claims? Like who? Like me. Kara's heart beat faster. Why would you do that? Because I've been trying to destroy Crescent Moon Pack for 20 years. His voice was quiet, controlled, and utterly certain. They killed my father in a border dispute they started, then blamed him for the violence. They've blocked every treaty I've proposed, undermined every alliance I've built, and personally cost me more than you can imagine. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You have information I need, and you need protection they can't penetrate. We can help each other. What are you suggesting? Accept my mark. Become my Luna Queen. The room seemed to tilt. Kara stared at him, certain she'd misheard. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about strategy. His expression didn't change. You accept my mark. You become Luna Queen of the Northern Territories. Untouchable. Under my protection, Brent can't reach you. You help me build a case against his pack. Testimony, details, everything you remember. We destroy them together. That's insane. That's practical. He stood. You have no family who can shelter you. If you try to go home, Brent will find a way to finish what he started. If you try to disappear, you'll spend your life looking over your shoulder. But as my mate, as my Luna, you're beyond his reach. Kara tried to sit up fully, gasping as pain shot through her ribs. You don't even know me. I know enough. He walked to the window, looking out at the snow-covered landscape. You chose conscience over safety. You threatened a powerful family because it was right. You survived being left to die. He glanced back at her. I've spent years playing politics with these people. You took action. I respect that, but you don't love me. No, and I don't love you. This isn't about romance, Kara. It's about survival and strategy. He turned to face her fully. I'll have papers drawn up. You'll have your own rooms in Thornridge Manor. We'll maintain separate lives. In public, we'll play the role of a respectable mating. In private, we'll work to dismantle Crescent Moon piece by piece. And if I refuse, then I'll pay for your recovery here and leave you to your fate. His voice was matter of fact. But know this, Brent believes you're dead. The moment you surface anywhere, that changes. He'll come for you, and next time, I won't be there to find you. The fire crackled in the silence. Kara thought of Brent's face as he pushed her from the carriage. The cold, the certainty that she would die alone and unmourned. She thought of the families being robbed, the widows losing everything, the orphan pups who'd inherit nothing because of hunter greed. And she thought of the man standing by the window, offering her a devil's bargain wrapped in protection. If I do this, she said slowly, I want your word that you'll pursue justice for the families they've harmed. Not just revenge. Justice. Elias turned to face her fully. You're negotiating terms while lying in a sickbed with broken bones. Those are my terms. Something that might have been respect crossed his face. Agreed. Justice, not just revenge. Anything else? I want to know what you get out of this. Beyond political victory. He was quiet for a moment. Then, the hunters killed someone I cared about 5 years ago. My younger sister. They made it look like an accident. A carriage going off a bridge during a storm. I've never been able to prove it. His voice remained steady, but his eyes were ice. So yes, Kara Lawrence. I want revenge. But I'll settle for justice if that's what it takes to destroy them. Kara understood revenge. She understood wanting someone to pay for their cruelty. One more condition, she said. If at any point I become a liability to you, if this arrangement puts you in danger, you let me go. No argument. That won't happen. Promise me anyway. Elias crossed the room, standing beside her bed. He extended his hand. I promise. Do we have an agreement? She looked at his hand. Strong, scarred across the knuckles, belonging to a man who'd just offered to make her his Luna Queen so they could destroy their common enemies. She'd been left in the cold to die. Now she was being offered a chance to fight back. The mate bond pulsed between them, urging her to take his hand, to accept what the moon goddess had apparently decided was her fate. Kara took his hand. "We have an agreement." His grip was firm, warm. "Then rest. When you're well enough to travel, I'll take you to Thornridge. We have work to do." He released her hand and moved toward the door. "Your Majesty," she called after him. The formal title felt strange on her tongue. He paused, looking back. "Why were you on that road? In the middle of a storm?" For a moment, his expression shifted. Something almost vulnerable beneath the controlled surface. "I was coming back from my northern estates. That road is the fastest route, even in winter." He opened the door. "I don't believe in fate, Kara, but I'm grateful I chose speed over comfort that day." Then he was gone, leaving Kara alone with the fire and the weight of the choice she'd just made. She'd been abandoned in the cold by a man who'd claimed to care for her. Now she'd bound herself to a man who saw her as a weapon. Kara closed her eyes and hoped she'd chosen the lesser danger. Chapter 3. Thornridge. 4 days later, Kara sat in a carriage emblazoned with the Northern Territory crest, a silver wolf howling at a crescent moon, watching the countryside roll past while her ribs ached with every bump in the road. The healer had protested the journey, insisting she needed at least another week of recovery. Elias had simply paid him double and ordered the carriage prepared with extra cushions. "The longer you stay at that inn, the more questions people ask," he'd said that morning, his tone brooking no argument. "Thornridge is isolated, safer, and we have better healers." Now she was traveling to a territory she'd never seen, to accept a mark from a man she barely knew, to become part of a scheme she didn't fully understand. Elias rode on horseback alongside the carriage, checking on her periodically through the window. He was a careful guardian, she'd learned. Impersonal, but thorough. He made sure she ate, that her injuries were tended, that she had everything she needed. But he never touched her beyond necessity. Never asked about her life before. Never revealed anything of himself beyond what was strategically relevant. It was like being cared for by a very efficient, very distant stranger who just happened to be her fated mate. As the sun began to set, they crested a hill, and Thornridge Manor came into view. Kara had expected something grand. She hadn't expected a fortress. Gray stone walls rose 4 stories, topped with crenellations like an ancient castle. Narrow windows stared out over manicured grounds that stretched for miles. The main building was flanked by 2 wings, creating a U-shape around a central courtyard where she could see wolves in human form training with weapons and hand-to-hand combat. Everything about it spoke of power, age, and absolute control. "It's beautiful," she said when Elias appeared at the carriage window. "It's defensible," he corrected, opening the door. "My family built it during the Great Pack Wars 300 years ago. We've held it ever since." He offered his hand. "Can you walk?" "Can you walk?" "I can try." His hands were steady on her waist as he helped her down. The moment her feet touched the ground, the manor's main doors opened and pack members began streaming out. Kara froze. "I thought you said this would be private." "The marking ceremony will be private, but the pack needs to meet their new Luna." He offered his arm. "Remember, you're not a victim here. You're the woman who survived what should have killed her. Stand like it." She took his arm, drawing on every lesson her mother had ever taught her about posture and dignity. Her ribs screamed in protest, but she kept her spine straight, her head high. The pack assembled in 2 lines, at least 40 wolves, from ancient warriors with battle scars to young pups barely old enough to shift. At the front stood a woman with steel-gray hair and a spine to match, her eyes sharp and assessing. "Your Majesty," the woman said with a precise bow. "Welcome home, Luella." Elias nodded. "This is Kara Lawrence. She'll be Luna Queen within the week. She's recovering from an attack and requires care. See to it." Luella's sharp eyes took in Kara's splinted arm, the fading bruises on her temple, the careful way she held herself. Something like approval flickered across her weathered face. "Of course, Your Majesty. Welcome to Thornridge, Miss Lawrence. We are honored to serve you." "Thank you, Luella," Kara said, keeping her voice steady despite the pain and overwhelming attention. "I look forward to learning from you all." It was a simple response, diplomatic and appropriate, but Luella's expression softened slightly. and several of the younger wolves exchanged approving glances. "Your rooms have been prepared in the East Wing," Luella continued. "If you need anything, I am at your disposal." Elias released Kara's arm. "Luella will show you to your quarters. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we'll discuss arrangements." He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the manor like he'd already forgotten she existed. Luella cleared her throat. "This way, miss." The manor's interior matched its exterior, all stone and dark wood, with tapestries depicting battle scenes and portraits of stern-faced alphas stretching back generations. Luella led Kara through corridors that seemed endless, up a grand staircase, and finally into the East Wing. "The Alphaking keeps to the West Wing," Luella explained as they walked. "You'll find him in the library most evenings, or in his study during the day. He values his privacy." "And what does he value in a Luna?" Kara asked. Luella paused, her hand on a door handle. She looked at Kara with an expression that might have been sympathy. "Honestly, miss? I don't know. We've never had one before. His father died before finding his mate, and Elias has refused every potential match the council has proposed." She opened the door. "These are your rooms. I hope they suit." The suite was larger than Kara's entire childhood home. A sitting room with a fireplace already crackling with warmth. A bedroom with a 4-poster bed draped in deep blue fabric. A dressing room with empty wardrobes waiting to be filled. And a private bathing room with a copper tub large enough to swim in. "It's overwhelming," Kara admitted. "You'll adjust." "Most do." Luella moved to the fireplace, adjusting the logs. "The Alphaking has ordered a seamstress to call tomorrow. You'll need appropriate gowns for your role. He's also arranged for instructors pack law, territory management, combat training. You have 6 weeks before the first Interpack Council meeting where you'll be presented as Luna Queen." 6 weeks to become a Luna Queen? 6 weeks to look like one, Luella corrected. "Being one takes longer. But if I may speak frankly, Miss the Alphaking doesn't make careless decisions. If he brought you here, he believes you can do this. Don't prove him wrong." After Luella left, Kara sank onto the edge of the bed, finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of exhaustion. Her arm throbbed. Her ribs ached. Her head pounded, but she was alive, warm, and safe. Through the window, she could see the forest in the distance, dark trees against a darkening sky. Somewhere out there was the road where she'd nearly died, the spot where Brent had left her. He thought she was dead. Good. Let him think that while she learned to become something he couldn't touch. A knock at the door startled her. "Come in." A young wolf entered, maybe 19 or 20, carrying a tray. Her eyes were downcast, respectful. And Omega Kara realized a wolf without rank or dominance, suited for service roles. "Luella sent dinner, miss. And the Alphaking asked me to give you this." She handed Kara a small leather-bound book. "What is it?" "His instructions, miss. He said you should read it tonight." After the Omega left, Kara opened the book, finding pages filled with precise, angular handwriting. "Kara, you'll find the next 6 weeks challenging. I'm not a patient teacher, and I have high expectations, but I believe you're capable of meeting them. These pages contain everything you need to know about Thornridge, its history, its laws, the role you'll play. Study them. Your survival depends on understanding this world. We'll dine together each evening at 8. Be punctual. We'll use that time to discuss your progress and coordinate our strategy against Crescent Moon. Remember our agreement. You help me destroy them. I keep you safe. Everything else is negotiable. Elias." Kara closed the book and looked at the dinner tray. Cold roast venison, bread, cheese, fruit. Simple food, but more than adequate. She ate mechanically, her mind already racing through implications. 6 weeks to learn an entire pack's history and customs. 6 weeks to become someone worthy of standing beside an Alphaking. 6 weeks before she'd face the wolves who'd tried to kill her. She'd been left in the cold to die by a man who'd pretended to care. Now she'd bound herself to a man who'd never pretended anything. Somehow, that felt like the more honest danger. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of lessons and bruises both to her body and her pride. The instructors Elias hired were thorough and merciless. An elderly she-wolf named Eula Leonard taught her pack law and history, drilling her on treaties, territorial boundaries, and the complex web of alliances that kept the packs from open warfare. A scarred warrior named Roderick Boyd taught her combat both in human and wolf form. Her ribs were barely healed when he had her sparring, teaching her that Luna Queens needed to defend themselves and their packs. An alpha protects through strength, Roderick growled after throwing her to the mat for the 10th time that morning. A Luna protects through cunning. Learn to fight dirty, girl. Your enemies won't give you mercy. Luella taught her the domestic side, managing pack resources, mediating disputes between pack members, organizing hunts and ceremonies. The work of keeping a pack functional when the alpha was busy with politics and warfare. And every evening at precisely 8 o'clock, Kara dined with Elias. They sat at opposite ends of a table built for 20, the distance between them symbolic. He asked about her progress. She reported what she'd learned. They discussed strategy for exposing Crescent Moon's corruption. It was clinical, professional, and completely devoid of anything resembling warmth, except for the mate bond. That hummed between them constantly now, growing stronger as her body healed and her wolf recovered from the wolfsbane poisoning. Every time Elias entered a room, her wolf perked up, wanting to go to him. Every time he was near, his scent cedar and winter made her instincts scream mate, safe, home. But he never acknowledged it, never touched her beyond necessity, never showed any sign that he felt the pull as strongly as she did. On the 21st day, during their evening meal, Elias set down his fork and looked at her directly. "Tell me again about the ledgers," he said. Kara had learned this was how he worked, asking the same questions repeatedly, looking for inconsistencies or new details she might have forgotten. Third shelf in Alpha Hunter's private study, behind a copy of Pack Law and Governance. Red leather binding, 3 volumes covering 5 years of investments. What was the largest embezzlement you saw? Widow Dina Avila's mate pension. 50,000 supposedly invested in silver mining operations in the Western Mountains. Instead, it was diverted to cover the Hunter family's personal debts. Elias made a note in the small book he always carried. Dina has influence with several border packs. If we can prove that theft, others will listen. He looked up. How do we prove anything without the physical ledgers? We find other evidence. Bank records, witnesses, patterns of behavior. Kara had been thinking about this for weeks. And we get me in front of wolves who matter. Once I'm established as Luna Queen, my word carries weight. It's harder to dismiss me as a scorned bride when I'm marked by the Alpha King. So you understand the strategy. I understand I'm bait. You're an asset, he corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Elias's expression didn't change. Bait is disposable. Assets are protected. Which do you think I'd fight for? It wasn't a declaration of affection, but it was, in its way, a promise. The marking ceremony is scheduled for the full moon. He continued, 5 days from now. Private ceremony. Just us and 2 witnesses as tradition requires. Afterward, you'll legally be untouchable by Brent or anyone from Crescent Moon. And then we accelerate the plan. Your first public appearance will be the Interpack Council meeting in 3 weeks. Every major pack will be there. He paused. Including Crescent Moon. Kara's stomach turned. You want me to face him? I want you to stand beside me as my Luna Queen while he watches everything he threw away become something he can never touch. And I want you to do it with your head high, showing every wolf in that room that you survived and became stronger for it. What if he tries something? He won't. Not publicly. Not with me there. Not with witnesses. Elias's voice was cold and certain. But he will know you survived, and that knowledge will eat him alive. Chapter 4. The Mark. That night, Kara stood at her window watching snow fall over the gardens, unable to sleep. In 5 days, she would accept Elias's mark, bind herself to him permanently through the mate bond, become Luna Queen of the Northern Territories. She should be terrified. Instead, she felt something sharper, something that tasted like rage and justice mixed together. Brent had left her in the cold because he thought she was powerless, disposable. It was time to prove him catastrophically wrong. A knock at her door broke through her thoughts. Strange, it was well past midnight. The pack should be sleeping. Come in. Elias entered, and Kara's heart skipped. He'd never come to her rooms before, had always maintained careful distance. He wore only dark pants and a loose shirt, his hair slightly disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "No, you?" "I don't sleep much." He moved to stand beside her at the window, careful to maintain space between them. "Nervous about the ceremony? Should I be?" "Most wolves are. The marking is intense, permanent. Once it's done, there's no undoing it." He glanced at her. "Even if we wanted to. Do you want to undo it?" Elias was quiet for a long moment, his silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. "No. This arrangement serves both our purposes. You get protection and justice. I get the weapon I need to finally destroy the wolves who've plagued my territory for decades." His voice was matter of fact. "It's a fair trade. Is that all I am to you? A weapon?" He turned to face her fully, and something flickered in his expression, something quickly suppressed. "You're my fated mate, Kara. The moon goddess chose you specifically for me, despite every logical reason why that's a terrible idea. You're from my enemy's pack. You're caught up in corruption I'm trying to expose. And you're stubborn enough to negotiate terms while dying." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "So no, you're not just a weapon. You're also a complication I didn't plan for and don't quite know how to handle." Kara felt her wolf stir at his words, at the admission underneath the clinical exterior. "You feel it too, then? The bond?" "Every second." His voice roughened. "It's like an itch I can't scratch, a pull I can't resist. My wolf wants to claim you, mark you, keep you close every moment, but my human side knows that giving in to that need makes me vulnerable. And you don't do vulnerable. I can't afford to." He looked away. "I'm the Alphaking. I have enemies everywhere, wolves who'd exploit any weakness. If they knew how much—" He stopped himself. "If they knew the bond was affecting me, they'd use you against me. So you keep distance, stay cold. I keep you safe," he corrected. "There's a difference." Kara studied his profile, the sharp lines of his face, the tension in his shoulders. "What happened to your sister, Elias? You said the hunters killed her. Tell me what happened." For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, slowly, he began to speak. "Ela, her name was Ela." His voice was controlled, but Kara heard the pain underneath. "She was younger than me by 5 years. Sweet, kind. Everything this family didn't deserve after generations of warriors and politicians." He stared out at the falling snow. "She fell in love with a wolf from a neutral pack, Aaron Darling. Good wolf. Honorable. But Alpha Hunter had already decided Aaron would mate his daughter Angelita. When Ela refused to step aside, there was an accident." "What kind of accident?" "Her carriage went off a bridge during a storm. The driver swore the wheel had been tampered with, that he smelled crescent moon wolves in the area before it happened. But he was just a servant, his word meant nothing. And Alpha Hunter had witnesses claiming Ela had been drinking, that she was reckless." Elias's hands clenched on the windowsill. "The Interpack Council ruled it an accident. I've spent 5 years gathering proof it was murder. I've never found enough. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Help me make them pay." He turned to face her. "That's what you're here for, isn't it? To be the weapon I've been waiting for." But Kara saw past the cold words to the wolf underneath, the one who'd lost his sister and had been fighting alone ever since. "What if I want to be more than just a weapon?" she asked quietly. Elias went very still. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Kara stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat radiating from him, to see his eyes flash silver as his wolf responded to her proximity. "What if I want to fight beside you, not just for you? Not as a tool you use, but as a partner who actually shares your burden, Kara. You saved my life, Elias. You gave me protection when you could have left me to die. I know this started as strategy, but it doesn't have to stay that way." She held his gaze. "Let me be more than useful. Let me matter." For a long moment, he stared at her. Then his hand moved to her face, cupping her cheek with surprising gentleness. The touch sent electricity through the mate bond, making them both gasp. "You already matter more than you should," he said roughly. "That's the problem." Then he was kissing her. Not gentle, not careful, desperate, like he'd been holding back for weeks and finally broke. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head back as he deepened the kiss. Kara's wolf howled with satisfaction, surging forward, finally getting what she'd been craving. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Elias's eyes were pure silver, his wolf fully present. That was unplanned, he said. Was it unwelcome? No. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. But it complicates things. Everything about us is already complicated. True. He looked at her, and something in his expression shifted. The marking ceremony is in 5 days. After that, you'll be mine in every way that matters, legally, socially, magically. Are you ready for that? Are you? I don't know. His honesty surprised her. I've spent 20 years keeping everyone at arm's length, not letting anyone close enough to become a weakness. And now the moon goddess has forced me to bind myself to someone who makes me want things I'd given up on. What things? Partnership, trust. Someone who fights with me, instead of for their own agenda. He moved toward the door, then paused. Get some rest. The next few days will be intense final preparations, the ceremony, then we face crescent moon together. Elias? He looked back. Thank you for telling me about Isla. Something softened in his expression. She would have liked you. You're stubborn, like she was too brave for your own good. After he left, Kara touched her lips, where he'd kissed her, feeling the mate bond humming with satisfaction. 5 days until the marking. 5 days until she permanently bound herself to a wolf who was slowly becoming more than just her protector. 5 days until everything changed. The marking ceremony took place under the full moon in the sacred clearing where every Northern Territory alpha had claimed their mate for 300 years. Kara stood at the edge of the clearing, dressed in traditional ceremonial white, a simple gown that left her shoulders bare for the marking. Silver cuffs adorned her wrists, engraved with the pack's sigil. Her hair hung loose down her back as tradition demanded. Through the trees, she could see the clearing. The ancient stone altar. The pack assembled in a circle, over 200 wolves in human form, all waiting to witness their alpha claim his mate. Nervous, Luella appeared beside her, adjusting Kara's dress. Terrified, Kara admitted. Good, that means you understand what you're doing. Luella's expression was kind. The marking is permanent, miss. Once he claims you, and you claim him back, there's no undoing it. You'll feel everything he feels, his pain, his joy, his rage, and he'll feel yours. I know. Do you love him? The question caught Kara off guard. I don't know. I respect him. I trust him. I feel the mate bond pulling me toward him every moment. But love? Love comes, Luella said. Sometimes it comes before the marking. Sometimes after. Sometimes it sneaks up on you when you're not paying attention. She smiled. I think, for you two, it'll be the last one. Music began, drums and flutes, the ancient rhythm that called wolves to witness a claiming. Luella squeezed Kara's hand, then gently pushed her forward. Go. Your mate is waiting. Kara walked into the clearing, and every eye turned to her. She felt their assessment, their curiosity, some approval and some doubt, but she kept her spine straight, her head high, walking toward the altar where Elias waited. He stood bare-chested, wearing only ceremonial black pants, his skin marked with scars from old battles. His silver eyes locked onto her, and even across the distance, she felt the mate bond flare. Beside him stood his beta Jesse Tyler, a massive wolf with kind eyes who'd been nothing but welcoming to Kara despite her origins, and the pack shaman, Eula Leonard, the ancient she-wolf who'd been teaching Kara pack law. Kara reached the altar. Elias extended his hand, and she took it, feeling the now familiar spark of connection. Eula's voice rang out, amplified by some trick of the clearing's acoustics. Under the witness of the moon goddess in this pack, Alpha Elias Collins claims Kara Lawrence as his fated mate. Does anyone challenge this bond? Silence. Even those who might question accepting a crescent moon wolf couldn't challenge a fated mate bond. The moon goddess's will was absolute. Kara Lawrence. Eula turned to her. Do you accept this alpha as your mate? Do you bind your wolf to his? Do you accept his mark and offer yours in return? Every eye was on her. One word would change everything. Bind her to this wolf, this pack, this life. Kara met Elias's gaze, saw the barely controlled wolf behind his eyes, felt the bond humming between them like a living thing, urgent and undeniable. I accept. The pack howled, a sound that echoed through the forest, announcing the union to every wolf within 50 miles. Elias moved toward her with predatory grace. He cupped her face in both hands, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones. Mine, he growled, low enough that only she could hear. Then he kissed her. The bond exploded between them like lightning. Kara felt her wolf surge forward, felt Elias's wolf rising to meet hers, felt the two halves of their souls clicking into place with an inevitability that stole her breath. When they pulled apart, both their eyes were glowing, his silver, hers gold. Shift, Eula commanded. Kara's wolf leaped forward eagerly. Bones cracked, reformed. Fur erupted white as fresh snow. Her wolf was smaller than most, built for speed rather than power, but fierce and fast. Elias shifted beside her, a massive black wolf easily twice her size, radiating alpha dominance that made every wolf in the clearing bare their throats in automatic submission. The pack shifted with them, 200 wolves howling under the full moon, their voices rising in celebration. Elias's wolf approached hers, circling, dominant and possessive. Kara's wolf submitted, baring her throat not in weakness, but in trust, offering him access to her most vulnerable place. His jaws closed gently on her throat, his teeth pressing against her pulse point, the marking. She felt the magic burning through her bloodstream as his scent permanently bonded with hers, as his claim sank into her soul, marking her as his in every way that mattered. Then it was her turn. She rose, and he submitted, and alpha submitting was rare, sacred, only done for a true mate. She marked him in return, her smaller jaws finding the junction of his throat and shoulder, feeling his blood on her tongue, tasting cedar and winter and home. The bond completed with a flash of silver light that illuminated the entire clearing. When they shifted back to human form, the marks were visible, 2 crescent-shaped scars on their throats that glowed faintly in the moonlight. Permanent, unbreakable, proof of their bond for any wolf to see. The Alpha King and his Luna Queen, Eula announced, her voice carrying. Bound by fate, marked by choice, witnessed by the pack, and blessed by the moon goddess. The pack howled again, and Kara felt it, the pack bond snapping into place like invisible threads connecting her to every wolf present. She was no longer just Kara. She was their Luna Queen. Every wolf in this territory was now hers to protect, hers to guide, hers to fight for. And they were hers to command. Elias's hand found hers, their fingers interlacing. Through the bond, she felt his satisfaction, his pride, and underneath it, carefully hidden but present, something that felt like hope. Chapter 5. Luna Queen. The celebration lasted until dawn, pack members drinking, dancing, and celebrating their alphas mating with wild abandon. But Elias and Kara left after the first hour, tradition allowing the newly mated pair privacy. They walked back to Thornridge Manor in silence, the mate bond humming between them, now fully formed and overwhelming in its intensity. Kara could feel Elias's emotions bleeding through satisfaction, possessiveness, and a carefully controlled desire that made her wolf purr with anticipation. When they reached the manor, Elias stopped at the base of the grand staircase. "Your rooms are in the east wing," he said, his voice carefully neutral despite the bond screaming between them. "Mine are in the west. You're welcome to stay in yours if you prefer." Kara stared at him. "We just completed a mate bond in front of 200 wolves, and you're offering me separate rooms? I'm offering you a choice." His eyes flashed silver. "The bond is complete. We're marked, we're mated. But that doesn't mean you're obligated to," he seemed to search for words. "I won't force anything you're not ready for." Despite everything, the ceremony, the marking, the overwhelming pull of the bond, he was still giving her control, still letting her decide. Kara's wolf made the decision before her human side could overthink it. She took his hand. "Show me your rooms." Something blazed in his eyes. "Are you sure?" "We're mated, Elias. We're bound for life, I'm sure." He led her to the west wing. to a suite even larger than hers. But Kara barely noticed the space. She was too focused on the wolf beside her, on the bond pulling them together like gravity. The moment the door closed, Elias had her against it, his mouth on hers, hungry and claiming. Kara kissed him back with equal ferocity, her wolf finally getting what she'd been denied for weeks. "I've wanted this since I found you." Elias growled against her throat. "Since I first caught your scent and my wolf recognized you. Do you have any idea how hard it's been to keep my distance? Then stop keeping it." What followed was intense, primal, the mate bond amplifying every touch, every sensation. When they finally collapsed together hours later, both sated and exhausted, Kara felt the bond settle into something deeper, not just magical connection, but genuine intimacy. Elias pulled her against his chest, his hand stroking her hair with surprising tenderness. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. "None." She traced the mark on his throat, her mark claiming him as hers. "You? Only that I didn't find you sooner." He tilted her chin up, his silver eyes serious. "I know this started as strategy, a bargain between enemies. But Kara, what I feel through this bond, what I'm starting to feel for you, that's real. You understand that?" "I do." She pressed her hand over his heart, feeling it beat steady and strong. "I feel it too. It terrifies me. But I feel it." "Why does it terrify you?" "Because everyone I've ever trusted has hurt me. My parents used me as a bargaining chip to elevate the family's status. Brent used me to gain access to pack connections, then tried to kill me when I became inconvenient." She looked away. "How do I know you won't do the same?" Elias was quiet for a long moment. Then he took her hand, pressing it more firmly against his chest. "Feel that? My heartbeat. Through the bond. You can feel if I'm lying. That's what the mate bond does. It makes deception impossible between us." He held her gaze. "I swear to you, Kara, I will never use you and discard you. I will never let you become convenient or disposable. You're my mate, my Luna, and I will protect you with everything I have, not because it's strategic, but because losing you would destroy me." Through the bond, Kara felt the truth of his words, felt his fierce protectiveness, his growing affection, his absolute certainty. "Okay," she whispered. "I believe you." They fell asleep tangled together, the mate bond finally quiet and content. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind of transformation. Kara threw herself into learning everything required of a Luna Queen. Luella taught her the intricacies of pack management, how to handle disputes between pack members, how to organize hunts and patrols, how to manage the pack's resources so everyone was cared for. Roderick continued her combat training, pushing her harder now that she was fully healed. "You're a Luna Queen now," he growled after she successfully pinned him for the first time. "That makes you a target. Every wolf who wants to hurt the Alpha King will come for you. You need to be able to defend yourself." Eula taught her pack law and politics, the complex web of alliances, treaties, and old grudges that governed relations between packs. She also taught Kara how to use her new position's authority. "As Luna Queen, you have the power to command any wolf in this territory," Eula explained. "Your word carries the weight of the Alpha King's authority. Use it wisely." And every evening, Kara dined with Elias, but now they sat together at one end of the table instead of at opposite ends. Now they discussed not just strategy but their days, their thoughts, the small intimacies that came with being truly mated. The bond between them deepened. Kara learned to read his moods through the connection, to sense when he was stressed or angry or needed her presence. And he learned the same about her, appearing in her training sessions when she was frustrated, bringing her tea when she was overwhelmed with pack law, holding her when nightmares of the snow and cold woke her in the night. They were becoming partners. Real partners, not just strategic allies. On the 20th day after their marking, during breakfast, Elias set down a letter with the Northern Council's seal. "It's confirmed," he said. "The Interpack Council meeting is in 3 days. Every major pack will send representatives, including Crescent Moon." Kara's stomach clenched. "So we're really doing this. We're really doing this." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Are you ready?" "I don't know. I've been preparing for weeks, but actually facing Brent, facing the wolves who let him try to kill me." She took a breath. "What if I freeze? What if I can't do this?" Then you remember what he did to you. Remember that he left you in the cold to die. Remember every family he stole from, every widow left with nothing, every orphaned pup who suffered because of his greed. Elias's voice was firm. And you walk into that council chamber as Luna Queen of the Northern Territories as living proof that he failed. And if he tries to discredit me, he will try. He'll say you're lying, that you're mentally unstable, that you're making wild accusations to get revenge for being rejected. Elias squeezed her hand. But you'll stay calm. Stay rational. Let him get angry while you stay composed. We have evidence, bank records, testimony, patterns of fraud. We'll present facts, not emotions. Will it be enough? It has to be. His eyes hardened. Because if the council won't act, I will. And that will mean war. Kara heard the certainty in his voice. He meant it. If the council refused to bring Crescent Moon to justice, Elias would do it himself, consequences be damned. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, she said quietly. Let's hope. But his expression said he was prepared for either outcome. 2 days before they were scheduled to leave for the council meeting, something happened that changed everything. Kara was in the training yard with Roderick, practicing defensive moves in wolf form, when a commotion at the main gate caught her attention. She shifted back to human form, pulling on the clothes she'd left nearby, and hurried toward the noise. A small Omega wolf stood at the gate, trembling and exhausted. Her clothes were torn, her face bruised. Guards surrounded her, but she was begging to speak with the Luna Queen. Let her through, Kara commanded, her Luna authority making the guards step aside immediately. The Omega practically collapsed at Kara's feet. Please, Your Majesty. Please, you have to help us. Help who? What happened? Crescent Moon Pack. Beta Brent, he's been purging anyone who might testify against him. 3 families have disappeared in the last week. He's calling them traitors, saying they stole from the pack. The Omega's eyes were wild with fear. But everyone knows the truth. He's eliminating witnesses. Ice flooded Kara's veins. Which families? The Avalas, the Campos, the Rojas. The Omega grabbed Kara's hand. Please, Your Majesty. My sister is married to Greg Campos. She's pregnant with their first pup. If Brent finds them, where are they now? Hiding in the neutral zone between territories. But they can't stay there. Rogues hunt that area. And Brent has trackers looking for them. Kara's mind raced. 3 families' innocent wolves who'd been victims of Brent's embezzlement, now being hunted to prevent them from testifying. If they died, the case against Crescent Moon would be much harder to prove. Roderick, she called. The old warrior appeared immediately. Gather a patrol. 20 wolves, fully armed. We're going to the neutral zone. Your Majesty, you can't. Roderick started. Those are my wolves now, under attack by our enemies. I'm not leaving them to die. She held his gaze, letting her Luna authority shine through. Gather the patrol. Now. Roderick bowed and moved to obey. Luella appeared, looking worried. The Alphaking is in council with the territory lords. He doesn't know about this. Then, someone should tell him. Kara was already moving toward the armory. But I'm not waiting for permission. Those families need help now. By the time Elias burst into the courtyard 15 minutes later, Kara was already armed and mounted, with 20 warriors ready to ride. What the hell do you think you're doing? His voice carried alpha command that would have made most wolves submit instantly. But Kara was his mate, his Luna Queen. She was partially immune to his commands, a protection the mate bond provided so Lunas could stand up to their alphas when necessary. I'm going to rescue wolves who are being hunted by Crescent Moon, she said calmly. Families who were victims of Brent's crimes. He's trying to eliminate them before they can testify at the council meeting. Then send the patrol. You don't need to go yourself. Yes, I do. I'm their Luna Queen. They're risking everything to seek refuge with us. The least I can do is meet them halfway. Elias's jaw clenched. Through the bond, Kara felt his fury warring with pride. His desire to keep her safe conflicting with respect for her taking responsibility for her pack. Fine, he said finally. But I'm coming with you. And we're taking 50 warriors, not 20. Elias, those are my terms. Take them, or I'll alpha command every wolf here to stand down. Kara knew he could do it. And knew he would. Fine, 50 warriors. But we leave now. Within the hour, they were riding toward the neutral zone 50 Northern Territory wolves moving fast and quiet through the forest. Kara rode beside Elias, her senses sharp, her wolf on high alert. Through the bond, she felt his tension. His concern for her safety. His anger at Brent for forcing this situation. I had to do this, she said quietly as they rode. I know. His voice was gruff. Doesn't mean I have to like putting you in danger. I'm not fragile, Elias. I'm not the dying wolf you found in the snow anymore. No, you're not. You're the Luna Queen who rides into danger to protect her wolves. He glanced at her, silver eyes gleaming in the fading light. You're magnificent and terrifying, and I'm trying very hard not to lock you in a tower for your own safety. Despite the tension, Kara smiled. You know I'd just escape. I know. It's one of the things I love about you. He paused, then seemed to realize what he'd said. I mean, you love me? Elias was quiet for a moment. Then, yes, I do. I didn't plan to. But I love you, Kara. Your strength, your courage, your stubborn refusal to stay safe when your wolves need you. He reached over, briefly touching her hand. We'll talk about this later, after we get those families to safety. Okay, Kara whispered, warmth flooding through the bond. Later. They found the refugees just before nightfall, 3 families huddled in a cave, terrified and desperate. The moment they saw Kara's white wolf leading the patrol, they started crying with relief. Your Majesty, Deanna Avila sobbed, bowing despite her exhaustion. Thank the moon goddess. We didn't know if anyone would come. Of course I came. Your Northern Territory wolves now, under my protection. Kara shifted back to human form. We're taking you to Thornridge. You'll be safe there. But the council meeting, Greg Campos started. If we testify against Beta Brent, he'll do nothing, Elias said, his voice carrying absolute authority. Because you'll be under the protection of the Alpha King. And anyone who touches you will answer to me. The rescue went smoothly, too smoothly. They were halfway back to Northern Territory when Kara's instincts screamed danger. Ambush! She shouted just as 20 crescent moon wolves burst from the tree line. Chaos erupted. Northern Territory warriors engaged the attackers while Elias and Kara positioned themselves between the enemy and the refugees they were protecting. Kara shifted mid-stride, her white wolf launching at a massive brown wolf wearing crescent moon colors. They collided in a tangle of fur and fangs. She fought with everything Roderick had taught her fast, dirty, using her smaller size as an advantage. Through the bond, she felt Elias nearby, felt his protective fury as he tore through enemies with brutal efficiency. Then she saw him, Brent, in his tawny wolf form, trying to circle around to get to the refugees. Their eyes met across the battlefield, and she saw his shock, his disbelief. She was supposed to be dead, buried by snow, forgotten. Instead, she was Luna Queen, marked and mated, leading warriors to protect the very wolves he was trying to silence. Kara howled a challenge, a declaration. I survived, and I'm coming for you. Brent hesitated, clearly torn between finishing what he started and retreating. Then Elias appeared beside Kara, his massive black wolf radiating deadly intent. Brent ran. His warriors followed, retreating into Crescent Moon territory. The fight was over in minutes. 3 Northern Territory warriors injured, but none killed. All the refugees safe. Elias shifted back, immediately checking Kara for injuries. Are you hurt? I'm fine. A few scratches, nothing serious. She shifted as well, accepting the clothes someone handed her. Did you see Brent? I saw. He knows you're alive now. Knows you're protected. Elias pulled her close. And through the bond, she felt his relief that she was safe. The council meeting just got a lot more interesting. Chapter 6. The Council. The Grand Hall of the Neutral Grounds had been built for exactly this purpose: interpack politics conducted without bloodshed. The massive stone structure sat on territory claimed by no pack, governed by ancient treaties that made it sacred ground where violence was forbidden. 20 packs had sent representatives to the Interpack Council meeting, alphas, betas, lunas. The hall buzzed with conversation, political maneuvering, and the barely concealed tension that always existed when this many dominant wolves gathered in one place. Kara stood in the preparation room adjacent to the main hall, smoothing her gown for the 10th time. She wore midnight blue silk that marked her as Luna Queen, a silver circlet in her hair, and Elias's mark visible on her throat glowing faintly with the mate bond's power. "You look beautiful," Elias said from behind her. He wore formal black, the Northern Territory crest embroidered in silver on his chest. "And terrifying. It's a good combination for what we're about to do. I'm nervous." "Good. That means you understand the stakes." He moved to stand beside her, taking her hand. "Remember the plan. We enter together. Let them see you as my mate. My Luna, untouchable. When the time comes, I'll call for an investigation into Crescent Moon's financial practices. You'll provide testimony. The refugees will corroborate. We'll present evidence. And if the council refuses to act, then we've established a public record of their crimes. Other packs will demand their own audits. Crescent Moon's reputation will crumble whether the council acts or not." His eyes hardened. "But they will act. I'll make sure of it." A knock at the door. Jesse, Elias's beta, poked his head in. "Everyone's assembled, Your Majesty. Crescent Moon delegation just arrived." Through the bond, Kara felt Elias's satisfaction. Perfect timing. Let them settle in, get comfortable. Then we make our entrance. They waited 5 more minutes. Long enough for the hall to fill, for conversations to start, for attention to drift. Then, the herald announced them, the Alpha King of the Northern Territories and his Luna Queen. The hall went silent. Elias entered first, commanding every eye with the sheer force of his presence. Then Kara, her hand on his arm, her spine straight, her head high. She felt the weight of hundreds of eyes assessing her, judging her, wondering about the mysterious Luna Queen who'd appeared from nowhere. Then she caught Brent's scent. Her eyes found him across the hall, standing with his father, Alpha Rolando Hunter, and his mother, the cunning Bridget Hunter, who'd always been the real power behind Crescent Moon's throne. Brent's face had gone white as snow. Even from across the room, Kara could see his shock, his disbelief, his fear. Good. Let him be afraid. Alpha Hunter's expression was harder to read: surprise, certainly, but also calculation. He was already strategizing, trying to figure out how to handle this unexpected complication, and Bridget's eyes had narrowed dangerously, her sharp mind clearly racing through implications. The council head, an ancient alpha named Gerard Sparks, who governed the neutral territory, stood at the center of the hall. "Alpha King Elias, Luna Queen Kara, welcome. We're honored by your presence." "The honor is ours, council head," Elias said smoothly. He guided Kara to their designated seats, places of honor near the council table itself. "May I present my mate, formerly of Crescent Moon Pack." Murmurs rippled through the hall. Former Crescent Moon? Mated to their greatest enemy? How unexpected, Gerard said carefully. "I was unaware of this connection." "It was a private ceremony," Elias said, "as is our right. But we're pleased to introduce her to the wider pack community now." Alpha Hunter stood, his expression controlled but his scent betraying agitation. "Your Majesty, if I may, this is highly irregular. The wolf you've claimed as mate was betrothed to my son. She disappeared before their ceremony under suspicious circumstances. Now she reappears as your Luna Queen?" He looked around the hall. "Surely you see how this appears." "How does it appear, Alpha Hunter?" Elias's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Like manipulation. Like a political move designed to embarrass my family and pack. Or," Kara spoke for the first time, her voice carrying clearly through the hall, "like I survived an assassination attempt and sought refuge with the one alpha powerful enough to protect me." The hall erupted in whispers. Gerard raised his hand for silence. "These are serious accusations, Luna Queen." "Assassination attempt?" "Yes, council head." Kara stood, and Elias stood with her, a united front. 3 days before I was to accept Beta Brent's mark, I discovered evidence of systematic embezzlement from Crescent Moon Pack funds. When I confronted him, demanding he make restitution before I would mate him, he chose to eliminate the problem, She kept her voice steady, factual. He drugged me with wolfsbane to prevent shifting or healing, then threw me from a moving carriage into the forest during a snowstorm. He left me to die. I would have died if the Alphaking hadn't found me by chance on his territory. This is absurd, Brent shouted, his control finally snapping. She's lying. She ran away because she couldn't handle, then explained the wolfsbane in her system when I found her. Elias interrupted coldly. Explain the broken bones, the hypothermia, the injuries consistent with being thrown from a moving vehicle. An accident. She must have what? Poisoned herself with wolfsbane, then threw herself from a carriage in the middle of nowhere. Elias's voice dripped with contempt. You'll have to do better than that. Bridget Hunter stood smoothly. Council head, this is clearly a case of misunderstanding compounded by emotional instability. The girl, she emphasized the word dismissively, has been influenced by our family's enemies. The Alphaking has a known grudge against Crescent Moon. Of course he'd believe any accusation against us. Is it a grudge to seek justice for murder? Elias's voice cut like a blade. Your pack killed my sister 5 years ago. Made it look like an accident. I've never forgotten. That was ruled accidental by this very council, Gerard said carefully. We cannot relitigate closed cases without new evidence. Then let's discuss new evidence, Elias said. Luna Cara witnessed financial records showing systematic fraud. Investments that don't exist. Money diverted from widows' pensions, orphan funds, elderly care. Shall we investigate these claims? The word of one wolf is hardly evidence, Alpha Hunter said. What about the word of 3 families? Kara asked. Wolves who were victims of your son's theft. Wolves who fled Crescent Moon territory because Beta Brent was hunting them to silence their testimony. She gestured, and the refugees entered the hall, the Avilas, the Campos, the Rojas. All looking terrified but determined. Dina Avila stepped forward. Council head, Beta Brent embezzled my late mate's pension. 50,000 that was supposed to be invested for my family's future. When I questioned the returns, I was told not to worry about it. Then, last week, Beta Brent's enforcers came to my home in the middle of the night. They said I was a traitor to the pack. I barely escaped with my life. Greg Campos spoke next. My family's trust fund money left by my grandfather for his descendants was diverted to cover Hunter family debts. I have documentation showing the transfers, if the council wishes to see it. One by one, the refugees testified, each with similar stories. Money stolen, questions dismissed, and recently, threats and violence to keep them quiet. The hall was dead silent by the time they finished. Gerard looked at Alpha Hunter. These are serious accusations. Do you have a response? Disgruntled pack members making wild claims, Hunter said. But his voice lacked conviction. Every pack has wolves who feel slighted, who blame their leaders for personal failures. 3 families fled your territory in fear, Elias said. More are likely too terrified to come forward. That's not disgruntlement, that's systematic abuse. You have no proof of wrongdoing, Bridget interjected. Just testimony from wolves with obvious bias and a Luna Queen who admits she has an agenda against our family. Actually, a new voice said, we have quite a bit of proof. An older wolf stepped forward. Randy Carpenter, the council's chief investigator. He carried a leather satchel bulging with documents. Council head, you asked me to conduct a preliminary investigation into Crescent Moon Pack's financial practices 3 weeks ago. After several other packs raised concerns about similar investment irregularities, Randy opened the satchel. I've found systematic evidence of fraud spanning 5 years. Falsified investment returns, diverted funds, phantom projects that never existed. He pulled out ledgers, bank statements, correspondence. This isn't speculation or biased testimony. This is documented proof of embezzlement on a massive scale. The hall erupted in chaos. Alphas shouting questions, pack members demanding answers, the Crescent Moon delegation trying desperately to maintain some semblance of control. Gerard banged his gavel repeatedly. Order. We will have order. When the noise died down, he looked at Alpha Hunter with an expression of barely contained fury. Alpha Hunter, in light of this evidence, I'm calling for a formal investigation into Crescent Moon Pack's financial practices. You and your son will submit all records to council investigators within 7 days. This is a witch hunt, Hunter protested. This is justice, Gerard corrected coldly. And if you refuse to cooperate, the council will declare Crescent Moon in violation of interpack law. That carries severe consequences, including loss of territory, trade restrictions, and potential disbandment of your pack leadership. You can't. I can, and I will. Gerard's voice carried absolute authority. 7 days, Alpha Hunter. Comply or face the consequences. He turned to Brent, who'd been standing frozen throughout the proceedings. Beta Brent Hunter, you are hereby ordered to submit to council custody pending investigation into charges of embezzlement, fraud, and attempted murder. Guards, detain him. No. Brent's eyes flashed yellow, his wolf surging forward. I won't. He shifted mid-sentence, his tawny wolf launching toward the exit, but he'd barely taken 3 steps before Elias shifted, his massive black wolf intercepting with brutal efficiency. They collided in a tangle of fur and fury. Despite the sacred ground prohibition on violence, no one moved to intervene, and Alphaking defending his mate against her attempted murderer fell under justified protection. The fight was brief and vicious. Elias was larger, stronger, and infinitely more experienced. Within seconds, he had Brent pinned, jaws locked on the back of his neck in a hold that could easily become lethal. Yield, Elias growled, the word garbled but understandable through his wolf form. Brent struggled for a moment, then went limp in submission. Elias held him for 3 more seconds, making his dominance absolutely clear, then released him and shifted back to human form. Someone tossed him clothes, which he pulled on with deliberate calm. Beta Brent Hunter, Elias said, his voice carrying through the silent hall, attempted to murder my mate. Left her dying in the snow after poisoning her with wolfsbane. By pack law, that gives me the right to claim blood justice. Your Majesty, Gerard said carefully, while we acknowledge your right, perhaps the council investigation should. I'm not claiming it, Elias interrupted. Yet. But I want it on record that if the council's investigation fails to deliver justice, I will pursue it myself. His eyes swept the hall, landing on each alpha present, and any pack that stands in my way will be choosing a side in a war they cannot win. The threat hung in the air. No one doubted he meant it. Kara moved to stand beside Elias, her hand finding his. Through the bond, she felt his protective fury, his satisfaction at having Brent beaten and subdued, his absolute certainty that justice would be done. Council head, she said quietly. The wolves who fled to Northern Territory seeking refuge, they'll need protection while the investigation proceeds. I request the council grant them temporary sanctuary status. Gerard nodded. Granted, the refugees are under council protection. Any wolf who harms them will answer to this body. He looked at the Crescent Moon delegation. This session is concluded. Alpha Hunter, you have 7 days. Use them wisely. As they left the hall, Kara felt the weight of hundreds of eyes following them. They'd done it. Exposed Crescent Moon's crimes publicly, secured protection for the victims, and put Brent in council custody, where he couldn't hurt anyone else. But as they reached their carriage, Elias pulled her aside. That was the easy part, he said quietly. What do you mean? Brent is contained. But Alpha Hunter and his mate, they won't accept defeat quietly. They'll fight back with everything they have. His expression was grim. We need to be prepared for retaliation. What kind of retaliation? The kind that targets what I care about most. He touched her face gently. You. They'll come for you, Kara. Try to discredit you, hurt you, maybe even try to finish what Brent started. Fear flickered through her, but she pushed it down. Then we'll be ready. We will, he promised. Because I won't lose you. Not to them. Not to anyone. Through the bond, Kara felt his absolute conviction. And for the first time since this all began, she felt something shift inside her, not just gratitude or strategy, but genuine love for this wolf who'd saved her, protected her, and fought beside her. I love you, she said. The words came easily, naturally. I know this started as a bargain. But Elias, I love you. His eyes widened. Then he was kissing her, right there in the open, not caring who saw. When he pulled back, his smile was genuine and warm. "I love you too, little wolf. More than I thought possible." They rode back to Northern Territory together, hands clasped, the mate bond humming with contentment. The war with Crescent Moon wasn't over, but they'd won the first major battle. And they'd won it together. Chapter 7, Retaliation. 3 days after the council meeting, the first attack came. Kara was in the training yard with a group of younger wolves, teaching them defensive tactics, when a messenger arrived at full sprint. The young wolf collapsed at her feet, gasping for air, bleeding from multiple wounds. "Luna Queen," he wheezed. "Border Patrol. Ambushed. Crescent Moon wolves crossed into our territory. They're burning the western farms." Ice flooded Kara's veins. The western farms housed 15 families, mostly elderly wolves and those with young pups who couldn't fight. "Roderick," she shouted. The old warrior appeared immediately. "Gather every available fighter. Full combat gear, we ride now. Your Majesty. The Alphaking is in the capital meeting with territory lords. He's 3 hours away." Kara was already running toward the armory. "Those families don't have 3 hours. Move." Through the bond, she felt Elias's alarm as her fear and urgency bled through to him. She sent a clear message. "Western farms under attack. Taking warriors. Come quickly." His response was immediate. "Don't engage alone. Wait for me." "Can't wait. Families in danger." She felt his frustration, his fear for her safety, but also his understanding. This was what it meant to be Luna Queen, to protect her wolves even when it was dangerous. Kara shifted into her white wolf form, leading 50 warriors west at a punishing pace. They reached the farms 20 minutes later to find 3 buildings already burning. Crescent Moon wolves terrorizing the residents. She didn't hesitate. Didn't wait for strategy or backup. Her wolves needed her. Kara howled a Luna Queen's call to battle and launched herself at the nearest attacker. The fight was brutal. Crescent Moon had sent 20 wolves, all experienced fighters. But Northern Territory wolves fought with the fury of defenders, protecting their homes, their families, their Luna. Kara fought with everything Roderick had taught her. She was smaller, faster, using her agility to dart between larger opponents. She took down 2 wolves before a massive gray male caught her, his jaws closing on her shoulder. Pain exploded through her. Through the bond, she felt Elias's answering roar of fury. He felt her pain, knew she was hurt, and was coming, but he was still too far away. The gray wolf shook her viciously, trying to break her neck. Kara twisted, using her smaller size to slip partially free, and went for his throat. Her jaws locked on soft tissue. She bit down hard, tasting blood, and the wolf released her with a yelp. Before she could recover, another wolf was on her, a scarred female with dead eyes and the scent of too many kills. Kara was tiring. The shoulder wound was bleeding heavily, making her movements sluggish. The female sensed weakness and pressed her advantage, driving Kara back toward one of the burning buildings. Not like this, Kara thought desperately. Not after everything. Then a massive black wolf exploded into the fray, Elias, arriving with another 50 warriors. He moved like death itself, tearing through Crescent Moon wolves with brutal efficiency. The scarred female who'd been attacking Kara tried to run. Elias caught her in 3 bounds, his jaws closing on her spine with a sickening crack. The Crescent Moon wolves who weren't dead fled, retreating back across the border. Elias shifted back to human form, immediately moving to where Kara lay panting in the dirt. Shift. Let me see the damage. Kara shifted, gasping as pain lanced through her shoulder. The bite was deep, bleeding freely. Elias pressed his hand over the wound, applying pressure. "Healer," he roared. "Now." Through the bond, Kara felt his terror beneath the controlled exterior, felt how much it cost him to see her bleeding, hurt, vulnerable. "I'm okay," she said, though her voice was weak. "The families?" "Safe. You got here in time." His jaw clenched. "You also nearly got yourself killed. What were you thinking? Engaging without backup." "I was thinking my wolves needed their Luna." She met his eyes. "Wouldn't you have done the same?" "That's different." "Why?" "Because you're the Alpha King, and I'm just..." "Because losing you would destroy me," he interrupted, his voice raw. Don't you understand that? You're not just my Luna, you're my mate, my partner. My Hefter stopped, struggling with words. I can't lose you, Kara. I won't survive it. The healer arrived, interrupting their conversation. She cleaned and bandaged Kara's shoulder, tisking at the depth of the bite. You'll heal, Your Majesty, but you need rest. No shifting for at least 2 days, and absolutely no combat training. Agreed, Elias said before Kara could protest. Once the immediate crisis was handled, Elias called an emergency council with his top warriors and advisors. They gathered in the manor's war room, a stone chamber lined with maps and battle plans. This was retaliation for the council meeting, Jesse said, pointing to the map. Crescent Moon is sending a message, hurt us, we hurt you back. It's more than that, Luella added. They targeted farms, civilians. They wanted to make the Luna Queen look weak, unable to protect her wolves. Except she did protect them, Roderick growled. Single-handedly held them off until reinforcements arrived. If anything, this makes her look stronger. It also makes her a target, Elias said quietly. His hand rested on Kara's uninjured shoulder, a protective gesture he seemed unaware of. They'll try again. Next time, they might not be so obvious about it. What are you saying? Kara asked. I'm saying we need to end this. Quickly. Elias looked around the room. The council investigation will take weeks, maybe months. Crescent Moon will use that time to destroy evidence, intimidate witnesses, and launch more attacks. We can't afford to wait. What do you propose? Jesse asked. We gather our own evidence, build an ironclad case that even the council can't ignore. Elias pulled out documents Randy, the council investigator, had shared with him. Randy found proof of embezzlement, but not proof of the attempted murder. We need witnesses, documentation, something that ties Brent directly to leaving Kara in the snow. The carriage driver, Kara said suddenly. The one who drove us into the forest that day. He'd know the route we took, could testify that Brent ordered him to a specific location. Would he testify? Roderick asked. Going against a beta is dangerous for a subordinate wolf. Not if he had protection, Elias said. Find him. Offer him sanctuary in Northern Territory if he'll testify. What about Brent's mother? Luella suggested. Bridget Hunter. She's always been the strategist. If Brent planned the murder, she likely knew about it. Maybe even helped plan it. Getting her to confess would be nearly impossible, Jesse said. She's too smart, too careful. Maybe we don't need her confession, Kara said slowly. An idea was forming. What if we make her think Brent already confessed? That he's cooperating with the council investigation to save himself? Elias looked at her with something like admiration. You want to turn them against each other. Brent's weak. Impulsive. If his mother thinks he's betraying the family to save his own skin, she might do something stupid. Make a mistake we can exploit. That's devious, Jesse said. I like it. It's also dangerous, Elias cautioned. If Bridget realizes it's a trick, she'll be even more vicious in retaliation. Then we make sure she doesn't realize until it's too late. Kara stood, ignoring the protest from her injured shoulder. I'll write a letter. Make it look like it's from Brent, smuggled out of council custody, asking his mother to destroy evidence before it's found. Why would that make her suspicious? Roderick asked. Because I'll include details only Brent and I would know. Things that happened the day he left me to die. If Bridget sees those details in writing, she'll panic thinking Brent told investigators everything. Kara looked at Elias. Panicked wolves make mistakes. Elias studied her for a long moment. You've gotten better at strategy. I had a good teacher, flatterer. But he was smiling. All right. We'll try it. But carefully. One wrong move and this backfires spectacularly. Over the next week, they executed the plan with precision. Kara wrote the letter, making it look hastily scrawled, desperate. She included details about the carriage ride, about Brent's exact words before pushing her out, about the wolfsbane he'd used, details only someone who was there would know. Then they hired a neutral courier, a rogue wolf with no pack affiliation, to deliver it to Bridget Hunter at a tavern near the border, making it look like a secret communication. For 3 days, nothing happened. Kara began to think the plan had failed. Then, on the fourth day, Randy the investigator arrived at Thornridge with urgent news. It worked, he said, looking both impressed and disturbed. Bridget Hunter tried to bribe a council clerk to access Brent's holding cell. When that failed, she hired mercenaries to break him out. She what? Elias leaned forward. The mercenaries were caught before they reached him. But Bridget's involvement is documented. The council is furious. Attempting to interfere with an investigation is a serious violation. Randy pulled out more documents. Better yet, in her panic, she sent messages to several pack members ordering them to destroy evidence. We intercepted 3 of those messages. They're essentially confessions. Kara felt triumph surge through her. So we have proof of the cover-up. We have proof that Bridget knew about crimes and tried to hide them. Combined with the financial evidence, the refugee testimony, and Randy paused dramatically. The carriage driver's testimony, we have a complete case. You found him? Elias asked sharply. Found him and convinced him to talk. He's in protective custody, ready to testify that Brent ordered him to a specific location, then dismissed him before. Randy looked at Kara sympathetically. Before disposing of you. The weight of vindication settled over Kara. They'd done it. Built a case that couldn't be dismissed or ignored. The council has called an emergency session, Randy continued. 3 days from now. They want all parties present, including you, Luna Queen, to provide direct testimony. I'll be there, Kara said. After Randy left, Elias pulled Kara into his study. Are you ready for this? Facing Brent again, publicly testifying about what he did? I'm ready. She touched the mark on her throat, his mark, claiming her, protecting her. I'm not the wolf he left in the snow anymore. I'm Luna Queen. I'm your mate, and I'm done being afraid of him. Elias pulled her close, careful of her healing shoulder. I'm proud of you. You know that? You've mentioned it once or twice. She smiled against his chest. This is almost over, isn't it? Almost. One more battle. He tilted her chin up. Then we can focus on building our life, instead of destroying theirs. What kind of life do you want? The kind with you in it. Everything else is negotiable. He kissed her softly. Maybe pups someday. If you want them. Kara's breath caught. She hadn't let herself think that far ahead. Hadn't let herself imagine a future beyond survival and justice. I'd like that, she whispered. Someday. When this is really over, then that's what we'll have. His voice carried the weight of an alpha's promise. I swear it. Through the bond, Kara felt his absolute conviction. Felt his love, his protection. His unwavering commitment to their future together. 3 more days. 1 more confrontation. Then justice finally would be served. And they could begin building something beautiful from the ashes of what had tried to destroy them. Chapter 8. Justice. The emergency council session was held in the Grand Hall again, but this time the atmosphere was different. Tense. Electric. Every wolf present knew they were about to witness something significant, the fall of one of the oldest, most powerful packs in the territories. Kara stood beside Elias in the preparation room. Dressed in formal Luna Queen attire, deep crimson silk that made her look regal and fierce. The mark on her throat gleamed silver in the morning light. Last chance to let me do this alone, Elias said, though his tone suggested he already knew her answer. Not happening. These are my accusations. My testimony. I need to face him. She straightened her circlet. Besides, you promised me justice, not just revenge. I want to look him in the eyes when he falls. Bloodthirsty little Luna. But Elias smiled with pride. That's my mate. They entered the Grand Hall together to find it packed beyond capacity. Every alpha who could make the journey had come, along with their advisors, betas, and witnesses. This wasn't just about Crescent Moon anymore, this was about whether pack law meant anything, whether alphas and betas could be held accountable for their crimes. Brent sat in a guarded section, his wrists bound with silver chains that prevented shifting. He looked thinner than Kara remembered, his eyes hollow with fear and rage. When he saw her enter on Elias's arm, marked and radiant, his expression twisted with hatred. Beside him sat his parents. Alpha Rolando looked defeated, his shoulders slumped. But Bridget sat upright, her face a mask of cold fury. She stared at Kara with such venom that several nearby wolves shifted uncomfortably. Gerard Sparks called the session to order. We are gathered to conclude the investigation into Crescent Moon Pack's financial practices and the charge of attempted murder against Beta Brent Hunter. His voice carried through the hall. Investigator Randy will present his findings. Randy stood, carrying a massive folder of evidence. For the next hour, he methodically laid out the case. Bank records showing systematic embezzlement, falsified investment documents, testimony from dozens of victims, evidence that Crescent Moon's leadership had stolen over $2 million from their own pack members over 5 years. The hall listened in stunned silence. Even packs who'd suspected corruption hadn't realized the scope of it. And now, Gerard said when Randy finished, we address the charge of attempted murder. Luna Queen Kara, please approach. Kara walked to the center of the hall, feeling every eye on her. She kept her spine straight, her voice steady as she recounted finding the ledgers, confronting Brent, and the carriage ride that nearly ended her life. He drugged me with wolfsbane, she said clearly. Enough to prevent shifting and slow my healing to a crawl. Then he threw me from the moving carriage into the forest during a snowstorm. He left me there to die, knowing I couldn't shift, couldn't call for help, couldn't survive. These are lies, Brent shouted from his seat. She ran away, got lost in the storm, and now she's making up stories to then explain the carriage driver's testimony, Gerard interrupted coldly. A nervous-looking wolf was brought forward. Leonard Dodson, the driver who'd served Crescent Moon Pack for 20 years. He wouldn't meet Brent's eyes as he spoke. Beta Brent ordered me to take a specific route that day, through the forest far from normal patrol paths. When we reached a certain point, he told me to stop the carriage and dismissed me. Leonard's voice shook. I heard Miss Kara the Luna Queen protesting, heard a scuffle. Then I saw the Beta throw her from the carriage. She hit the ground hard, didn't move. He told me if I spoke of it to anyone, my family would suffer. You're a liar. Brent lunged against his chains. I paid you well, and this is how. You paid him to keep quiet about murder, Elias said, his voice cutting through the outburst. That's not loyalty. That's conspiracy. Gerard looked at Brent with disgust. Do you deny the charge of attempted murder? She was. Brent seemed to realize he had no defense. She threatened my family. Threatened to destroy us with lies about the investments. They weren't lies, Kara said, and threatening to expose criminal activity doesn't justify murder. Beta Brent Hunter. Gerard's voice rang with finality. You are found guilty of embezzlement, conspiracy, and attempted murder of your betrothed. The council sentences you to life imprisonment in the Northern Penal Territory. You are stripped of your Beta rank and expelled from Crescent Moon Pack. Brent sagged in his chains, the reality of his fate finally sinking in. Guards moved to escort him away, but Gerard wasn't finished. He turned to Alpha Rolando and Bridget. Alpha Hunter, Luna Bridget Hunter, you have been found complicit in the embezzlement scheme and in attempting to obstruct this investigation. The council hereby removes you from leadership of Crescent Moon Pack. The hall erupted in shock. Removing an alpha was nearly unprecedented. You can't do this, Bridget shrieked, her composure finally breaking. We are Crescent Moon. Our family has led that pack for 6 generations. And in 1 generation, you've nearly destroyed it, Gerard said coldly. Your son is a murderer. Your financial practices have bankrupted your own wolves. And you attempted to bribe council officials and break a prisoner free from custody. He gestured to guards. Take them into custody as well. As the guards moved forward, Bridget turned her venomous gaze on Kara. This is your fault. You poisoned my son against his duty. You seduced the Alphaking with your lies, I survived, Kara interrupted quietly. That's my only crime. I survived what your son tried to do to me, and I chose to seek justice instead of staying silent. You'll pay for this, Bridget hissed as guards seized her arms. The moon goddess sees your treachery. You'll— Enough, Elias said, his alpha command silencing her instantly. The moon goddess chose Kara as my mate. If you have objections, take them up with her. As the Hunter family was led away Brent to prison, His parents to await their own trials, Gerard addressed the hall. Crescent Moon Pack will be placed under interim leadership appointed by this council. All embezzled funds will be returned to victims with interest. Pack members who wish to leave Crescent Moon may do so without penalty, and any who seek sanctuary elsewhere will be granted safe passage. He looked at Kara. Luna Queen Kara, on behalf of this council, and the wolves of Crescent Moon who were victimized, I offer our deepest apologies. You were failed by those who should have protected you. But you fought back with courage and honor. You are an example to all Lunas of what true strength looks like. The hall erupted in applause, not just polite acknowledgement, but genuine respect. Kara felt tears prick her eyes. She'd done it. Justice had been served. Elias's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Through the bond, she felt his pride, his love, his absolute certainty that she'd been magnificent. After the session concluded, several alphas approached to congratulate them. Some who'd been neutral before now offered alliances. Others who'd been friendly with Crescent Moon carefully distanced themselves. Politics were already shifting, new power structures forming in the wake of Crescent Moon's fall. But Kara barely noticed. She stood in a quiet corner of the hall, finally allowing herself to feel the weight of everything that had happened. You did it, a soft voice said. Kara turned to find Diana Avila, the widow whose pension had been stolen. Beside her stood the other refugees, all looking at Kara with gratitude and awe. We did it, Kara corrected. Your testimony made the difference, your courage to come forward despite the danger. You gave us that courage, Your Majesty, Greg Campos said. You showed us that fighting back was possible, that justice could actually be served. What will you do now? Kara asked. Some of us will return to Crescent Moon under the new leadership, Deanna said. Others have asked to stay in Northern Territory, if you'll have us. Of course, Kara smiled. You're pack now, for as long as you want to be. After the refugees left, Elias found her still standing in the corner, staring out the window at the grounds where snow was beginning to fall. Thinking about something? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. About the night you found me. How close I came to dying in snow just like this. She leaned back against him. If you'd chosen a different route, if you'd left 5 minutes earlier or later, if you'd assumed I was already dead and didn't check. But I did check. I did find you. He turned her to face him. The moon goddess has a plan, even when we can't see it. She brought you to me. Gave me a mate who's strong enough to stand beside me, brave enough to fight her own battles, and stubborn enough to negotiate terms while dying. Kara laughed through tears she didn't remember starting to cry. I'm not that stubborn. You absolutely are. It's one of your best qualities. He kissed her forehead. Are you ready to go home? Home, she repeated, testing the word. Yes, I'm ready to go home. They rode back to Thornridge Manor as snow fell softly around them. The journey that had started with Kara dying in a snowstorm had come full circle, but this time, she was warm, safe, and surrounded by wolves who loved her. When they arrived, the pack had organized a celebration. Not just for the victory at council, but to truly welcome Kara as their Luna Queen. The great hall was filled with food, music, and laughter. Luella pulled Kara aside at one point, her normally stern expression soft. You've done well, Your Majesty. Better than I expected, if I'm honest. High praise from you, Kara teased. Don't let it go to your head. But Luella smiled. The pack loves you. They'd follow you into battle without hesitation. That's what makes a true Luna, not the title, but the loyalty you inspire. Later, when the celebration was winding down, Elias pulled Kara out to the balcony overlooking the gardens. Snow covered everything in pristine white, making the world look clean and new. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. We're already mated. What more could? Kara stopped when she saw what was inside. A ring. Delicate silver with a moonstone that caught the light. Elias, it was my mother's, he said quietly. She gave it to my father when they mated. Told him it represented her promise to see him clearly, both the strength and the scars. He took the ring out, holding it carefully. I want you to have it. Not because tradition demands it, but because I choose you, Kara. Every day for the rest of my life. I choose you too, she whispered as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Even though you're stubborn and overprotective and terrible at expressing emotions without a strategic purpose, I'm working on that last part. I know. It's very entertaining to watch. She kissed him, soft and sweet. I love you, Elias, my alpha, my mate, my home. And I love you, little wolf, my Luna, my salvation, my everything. They stood there as snow fell around them, two wolves who'd found each other against impossible odds and built something beautiful from ashes and strategy and unexpected love. Kara had been left in the cold to die by a wolf who'd seen her as disposable. But she'd been found by a wolf who taught her what it meant to be chosen, to be valued, to be loved without conditions. And together, they'd proven that even the coldest nights could lead to the warmest futures if you were brave enough to survive them. Chapter 9. Sanctuary. 6 months later, Kara stood on the eastern balcony of Thornridge Manor, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and rose. Her hand rested on the gentle swell of her stomach 4 months along now, carrying the pup that had been both a surprise and a blessing. Through the bond, she felt Elias approaching before she heard his footsteps. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hands covering hers over their growing child. "You're up early," he murmured against her hair. "Couldn't sleep. The pup's been restless." She leaned back against his chest. "I think we're having a warrior. Already picking fights with my internal organs." Elias chuckled, the sound rumbling through his chest. "Takes after her mother then. Her. Or him. I'm not particular." He turned her gently to face him. "As long as both of you are healthy and safe, I'll be happy with whatever the moon goddess sends us." Kara smiled, touching his face. 6 months of peace had softened some of his harder edges. He laughed more now, smiled more easily, and had even started attending the pack celebrations instead of just making brief appearances. Being truly mated, truly happy, had changed them both. "The refugees are settling in well," she said. "Deanna's daughter just had her first shift last week, a beautiful silver wolf. And Greg's mate had their pup. They named her Hope. Appropriate." Elias's expression turned thoughtful. "Have you heard from Crescent Moon? The new Alpha Rolando's younger brother sent a letter last week. He's requesting a formal meeting to discuss reparations and establishing better relations between our packs. Do you want to meet with him?" Kara considered. 6 months ago, the thought of dealing with anything Crescent Moon related would have filled her with anxiety. Now, she felt only a distant sense of closure. "Yes. I think it's time. The wolves there deserve leadership that actually cares about them. If the new Alpha is genuinely trying to rebuild, we should support that." "Very diplomatic of you, Luna Queen." Elias kissed her forehead. "You've come a long way from the wolf who negotiated surrender terms from a sickbed. That wasn't surrender. That was strategy. My mistake." His eyes gleamed with affection and pride. A knock at the door interrupted them. Luella entered, looking unusually flustered. "Your Majesties, forgive the interruption, but we have visitors. Unexpected ones." "Who?" Elias's protective instincts immediately activated, his hand moving to Kara's back. 3 young wolves. Sisters. They arrived at dawn, half-starved and terrified. "They're asking for sanctuary." Luella's expression softened. "They're from Crescent Moon Pack. They say the new Alpha is their uncle, and they ran away because," she paused, choosing words carefully, "because they were being forced into matings they didn't want." Kara's wolf rose immediately, protective and fierce. "Where are they now?" "In the receiving hall. I gave them food and water, but they're too frightened to speak to anyone except you, Your Majesty." "I'll come now." Kara was already moving toward the door. Elias caught her arm gently. "Kara, you're pregnant. If this is a trap..." "It's not a trap. They're terrified girls seeking help." She met his eyes. "This is what we built, Elias. A sanctuary for wolves who have nowhere else to go. I won't turn them away just because I'm carrying a pup." He studied her face, then nodded. "Then we go together. But I'm staying close." The 3 sisters huddled together in the receiving hall. The oldest maybe 19, the youngest barely 15. They were thin, bruised, and exhausted. When Kara entered, All three immediately bowed their heads in submission. "Please, don't," Kara said gently, moving to sit across from them instead of standing above them. "You're safe here. No one will hurt you. Tell me what happened." The oldest sister, Tamra, she introduced herself, spoke in a trembling voice. "Our uncle, the new Alpha, he seemed good at first, better than Alpha Rolando, but then he started making arrangements, political matings to strengthen alliances." "Let me guess," Kara said quietly. "He didn't ask if you wanted these matings. He said it was our duty to the pack. That after everything that happened with the hunters, Crescent Moon needed to rebuild its reputation through strategic alliances." Tamra's hands clenched. "My sister Angelita was supposed to mate a beta from a Western pack. She's only 17. And Catherine," she gestured to the youngest, "was being promised to an Alpha twice her age." Kara felt her wolf snarl with protective fury. "So you ran. We didn't know where else to go. But we heard stories about you, Your Majesty. About how you stood up to the hunters. How you built a sanctuary for wolves with nowhere to turn." Tamra's eyes filled with tears. "We thought maybe we hoped you might help us too." "Of course I'll help you." Kara looked at Elias, who nodded his agreement. "You're under Northern Territory protection now. Your uncle cannot force you to return, and he certainly cannot force you into unwanted matings. But he's an Alpha," Catherine whispered. "He has rights." "He has no rights over wolves who seek sanctuary in my territory," Elias said, his voice carrying absolute authority. "You're safe here. That's a promise from the Alphaking." The relief on their faces was profound. Angelita actually started crying, deep sobs of released tension and fear. Luella stepped forward. "I'll take them to the sanctuary wing, get them settled in proper rooms, and have the healer check them over." As the sisters were led away, Kara turned to Elias. "We need to send a formal message to Crescent Moon's new Alpha. Make it clear that forced matings are not acceptable and that any wolf seeking sanctuary here will be protected." "Agreed. Though he's not going to be happy about losing 3 potential political assets." "Good. Let him be unhappy." Kara's voice was hard. "I won't let what happened to me happen to other wolves. Not while I have the power to stop it." Elias pulled her close, careful of her pregnant belly. "This is why the moon goddess chose you as my mate. You have a warrior's heart wrapped in compassion. You fight not for revenge, but for justice and protection." "I fight because no one fought for me when I needed it," Kara said quietly. "I won't let another wolf feel that alone." Over the next 2 weeks, more wolves arrived seeking sanctuary. Some from Crescent Moon, fleeing the new Alpha's aggressive alliance building. Others from packs across the territories, Omegas escaping abuse. Young wolves running from forced matings. Elderly wolves abandoned by families who saw them as burdens. The sanctuary wing of Thornridge Manor, originally built for the refugee families, expanded to accommodate them all. Kara threw herself into the work, organizing resources, mediating disputes, and personally welcoming each new arrival. Elias watched with a mixture of pride and concern as his mate worked herself to exhaustion helping others. "You need to rest," he said one evening after finding her still in the sanctuary wing well past midnight, comforting a young Omega who'd been beaten by her former pack. "I'm fine. You're pregnant and exhausted." He gently but firmly led her toward their rooms. "The sanctuary wolves need their Luna healthy, which means you need to take care of yourself. There's so much to do. And you have pack members who can help. Luella, Roderick, Jesse, they're all capable of handling things while you rest." He guided her to their bed, helping her lie down. "You can't save everyone if you burn yourself out trying." Kara wanted to argue, but exhaustion pulled at her. "When did you become the reasonable one? Someone has to be. And you're too stubborn to do it yourself." He climbed into bed beside her, pulling her against his chest. "Sleep, little wolf. The sanctuary will still be there tomorrow." Through the bond, she felt his concern, his love, his absolute determination to protect her even from herself. "I love you," she murmured, already drifting off. "I love you too. More than you know." The confrontation with Crescent Moon's new Alpha came 2 weeks later. Alpha Brian Stout arrived at Thornridge with a delegation, demanding the return of his nieces. They are crescent moon wolves, he argued in Elias's formal receiving room. They belong to my pack. You have no right to harbor them against my wishes. I have every right, Elias said coldly. They sought sanctuary. Under interpack law, any wolf may seek refuge from abuse or forced matings. There was no abuse. I was arranging advantageous matings to strengthen the pack. Without their consent, Kara interrupted. She'd insisted on being present despite Elias's concerns. Matings arranged against a wolf's will are little better than slavery, Alpha Stout. You would say that, given your history. Brian's lip curled. But not every arranged mating is like what Brent Hunter attempted. Sometimes wolves must sacrifice personal preference for the good of the pack. And sometimes alphas use pack good as an excuse for treating their wolves as bargaining chips, Kara countered. Your nieces are not property to be traded. They're wolves with their own lives, their own choices. They chose to leave your pack. I'm honoring that choice. This is outrageous. The council supports sanctuary rights, Elias said. I've already confirmed it with Gerard Sparks. You have no legal recourse to force their return. Brian's eyes flashed yellow with frustrated rage. You're harboring my pack members. That's tantamount to an act of aggression. No, I'm protecting wolves who asked for help. There's a difference. Elias stood, using his superior height and alpha dominance to full effect. But if you want to call it aggression, by all means take it to the council. I'm sure they'll be very interested to hear about your forced mating practices. The threat was clear. Brian could push this and risk investigation into his own pack's practices, or he could back down and accept the loss. After a long, tense moment, Brian backed down. Fine, keep them. But don't expect any cooperation from Crescent Moon in the future. I wasn't expecting any anyway, Elias said mildly. After Brian and his delegation left, Kara let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Well, that was unpleasant. But necessary. Elias pulled her close. You were magnificent. The way you stood up to him, defended those young wolves. He kissed her softly. I'm proud of you. I just did what was right. Exactly. That's what makes you a true Luna. He placed his hand gently on her belly. Our pup is going to have an incredible mother. Kara felt tears prick her eyes. Pregnancy hormones made her more emotional than usual. And an incredible father. One who supports his mate's crazy sanctuary projects even when they cause political headaches. They're not crazy. They're important. His voice turned serious. What you're building here, Kara, it's changing how packs think about protecting their vulnerable members. Other Lunas are watching you, learning from you. You're creating a legacy that will outlast both of us. A legacy built on survival and second chances. The best kind of legacy. He kissed her forehead. Now, come. You've had enough politics for one day. Let me feed you dinner, run you a bath, and take care of my pregnant mate properly. I'm not helpless, you know. I know. But you're also not alone anymore. Let me help carry the burden sometimes. Kara looked at this wolf who'd saved her life, married her for strategy, and somewhere along the way had become her true partner in every way that mattered. Okay, she said softly. You can take care of me. Just this once. I'll take what I can get, Elias said with a smile, leading her toward their private rooms. Through the bond, Kara felt his love, his pride, his absolute devotion. And she sent back the same gratitude for the second chance he'd given her, love for the wolf he'd become with her, and hope for the future they were building together. She'd been left to die in the cold by a wolf who saw her as disposable, but she'd been found by a wolf who taught her she was invaluable. And together, they were creating something beautiful, a sanctuary not just for homeless wolves, but for the love they'd found in the most unlikely circumstances. Chapter 10, Legacy. 1 year later. The autumn sun filtered through the trees surrounding Thornridge Manor, painting the grounds in shades of gold and crimson. In the newly expanded sanctuary wing, over 60 wolves had found refuge, a number that still astonished Kara every time she thought about it. But today wasn't about the sanctuary. Today was about family. Kara stood in the nursery, gently rocking a 6-month-old pup with silver eyes and dark hair. Her daughter, their daughter Hope Collins, named for the emotion that had carried Kara through her darkest moments. She has your eyes, Luella said from the doorway. her stern expression softened by genuine affection. And her father's stubborn temperament, I suspect. Definitely her father's temperament. Kara smiled as hope grabbed her finger with surprising strength. She growled at Roderick yesterday during combat demonstrations. Actually growled. At 6 months old. Alpha blood runs strong. Luella moved into the room, her movements gentle despite her usual briskness. The Alpha King is looking for you, by the way. Something about the council sending another delegation. Kara sighed. Again? That's the 3rd one this month. Word of the sanctuary has spread. Other packs want to establish similar programs. They're seeking your guidance. I'm not an expert. I just did what felt right. That's precisely why they want to learn from you. Luella carefully took Hope from Kara's arms. Go. I'll watch the little Alpha. She and I need to have a discussion about proper behavior during training exercises anyway. Kara kissed her daughter's forehead, breathing in that sweet pup scent that never failed to make her wolf purr with contentment. Be good for Luella. Hope responded by grabbing Luella's finger and grinning all gums and innocent joy. Kara found Elias in his study, surrounded by maps and correspondence. He looked up when she entered, his expression immediately softening. There's my Luna. He stood, crossing to kiss her. Even after a 1.5 years together, the mate bond still thrilled through her at his touch. How's our daughter? Currently terrorizing Luella with her cuteness. You said the council sent another delegation. Not just a delegation, an invitation. He handed her an ornate letter bearing the council's seal. Gerard Sparks wants you to speak at the annual Interpack Summit. Share your experiences building the sanctuary. Provide guidance for other packs wanting to implement similar programs. Kara's eyes widened. Me? Speak to every Alpha in the territories? You've already spoken to them once. When you testified against Brent. This time, you'll be speaking as an expert. A leader in wolf welfare. His pride flowed through the bond. They want to learn from you, Kara. I don't know what to say to them. Tell them the truth. Tell them what it was like to have nowhere to turn. No one to protect you. Tell them about the wolves you've helped Tamara and her sisters, Deanna and her family. Every wolf who found safety here when their own packs failed them. He took her hands. Tell them that compassion isn't weakness, it's strength. Kara thought about the journey that had brought her here. From dying in the snow to speaking at the Interpack Summit. From a nobody with no voice to a Luna Queen whose sanctuary program was changing how packs treated their vulnerable members. Will you come with me? She asked. Always. Wherever you go, I go. He kissed her forehead. Though I suspect you won't need me there. You're perfectly capable of facing down a room full of alphas on your own. I learned from the best. Flatterer. A commotion from outside caught their attention. Through the window, they saw Jesse running toward the manor, his expression urgent. That's not good, Elias muttered, already moving toward the door. They met Jesse in the entrance hall. He was breathing hard, having clearly run at full speed in wolf form before shifting. Your Majesties, we have a situation at the eastern border. A pack may be 50 wolves seeking sanctuary, but they're not refugees. They're warriors. Kara and Elias exchanged glances. Warriors seeking sanctuary was unusual and potentially dangerous. Who sent them? Elias asked. That's the thing, Your Majesty. They're from Crescent Moon Pack. Alpha Brian sent them. Jesse's expression was grim. He's dismantling his pack. An hour later, Kara and Elias stood at the eastern border, facing 50 battle-hardened wolves led by a scarred warrior who introduced himself as Aaron Darling. Alpha Brian is stepping down, Aaron explained, his voice weary. After your sanctuary became public knowledge, more wolves started questioning his leadership, demanding better treatment, refusing forced matings, calling for reforms. He shook his head. Brian couldn't handle it, couldn't adapt. So he's dissolving Crescent Moon Pack entirely. Wolves are scattering to different territories, seeking better leadership. And you're all coming here? Elias asked carefully. If you'll have us, Your Majesty. Aaron looked at Kara. We heard what you did. How you survived the hunters, built a sanctuary, protected wolves who had no one else. We want to serve a Luna like that. An Alpha King who supports her. Kara felt the weight of 50 pairs of eyes on her. These were warriors wolves who'd served Crescent Moon for generations. They were offering their loyalty, their strength, to her and Elias because of what the sanctuary represented. "This isn't a decision I can make lightly," Elias said. "Integrating 50 new wolves, especially former Crescent Moon warriors, requires careful planning. We understand, Your Majesty. We're willing to undergo any trials, any tests you require. Aaron's voice roughened. We want to serve a pack that actually cares about its members. All of them. Not just the strong or the politically useful." Kara touched Elias's arm. Through the bond she sent her thoughts. "They're seeking exactly what I sought. A second chance. A place where they matter. I know. But it's a risk. Everything worth doing is." Elias studied the 50 warriors, then looked at Aaron. "You'll undergo integration trials, training with our warriors, evaluation by our pack council. Proving your loyalty isn't just convenience. It won't be easy." "We don't expect easy, Your Majesty. We expect fair. That's more than we had before." "Then welcome to Northern Territory." Elias's voice carried the formal weight of acceptance. "You are under my protection now. Betray that trust, and you'll face my justice. Uphold it, and you'll find a pack that fights for each other." The 50 warriors bowed as one, a gesture of respect and submission to their new Alpha King. As they were led toward the manor for processing, Kara leaned against Elias. "We're going to need to expand the barracks, and the training yards, and probably the dining hall." He wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "Your sanctuary program just absorbed an entire pack's worth of warriors." "Our sanctuary program," she corrected. "I couldn't do any of this without you. We make a good team, the best team." They watched the warriors disappear into the manor, the sun setting behind them in brilliant oranges and purples. "Crescent Moon pack is truly gone," Kara said quietly. "The pack that tried to kill me, that hurt so many wolves, it's dissolved." "Does it feel like closure?" "It feels like justice. Not the revenge kind, but the rebuilding kind." She turned to face him. "The wolves who served under corrupt leadership get a second chance. The sanctuary provides refuge for the vulnerable. And she placed her hand over his heart. "We built something better from the ashes of what tried to destroy us." Elias covered her hand with his. "I love you. Did I mention that today?" "Once or twice. But I don't mind hearing it again. I love you, Kara Collins. My mate, my Luna, my partner in building impossible dreams." He kissed her softly. "And I'm grateful every day that I chose to stop on that forest road. Best decision you ever made? Second best. The first was marking you as mine. Also the most strategic?" "Also the most strategic," he agreed with a smile. "Though somewhere between strategy and survival, it became the most important decision of my life." They walked back to the manor together, hand in hand, the mate bond humming contentedly between them. 3 months later, the Interpack Summit. Kara stood backstage at the Grand Hall, smoothing her formal Luna Queen attire for the 10th time. Beyond the curtain she could hear the murmur of hundreds of wolves, every alpha, Luna, and beta of significance in the territories. "Nervous?" Elias asked, adjusting his formal jacket, terrified. "What if I mess up? What if they don't listen? What if—" He silenced her with a kiss. "You face down murderers, corrupt alphas, and me when I'm being unreasonable. You can handle a speech. You're never unreasonable." "I'm frequently unreasonable. You just handle it well." He smiled. "Now, go out there and show them why you're the Luna Queen everyone's talking about." Gerard Sparks's voice boomed through the hall. "Distinguished guests, it is my honor to introduce Luna Queen Kara Collins of Northern Territory. She will speak to us about sanctuary, compassion, and the future of interpack relations." Kara took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and walked onto the stage. Hundreds of eyes turned to her. For a moment, she was back in the snow, dying, powerless. Then she felt the mate bond, Elias's steady presence, his absolute faith in her, and she remembered who she'd become. "Thank you, Council Head Sparks," she began, her voice steady and clear. "A year and a half ago, I was dying in the snow, left there by wolves who saw me as disposable, as a problem to be eliminated. I had no power, no voice, no hope. The hall was silent, every wolf listening intently. I survived because one wolf chose compassion over convenience. Alphaking Elias found me, saved me, and gave me the protection I needed to seek justice. But more importantly, he gave me the opportunity to ensure other wolves wouldn't face the same abandonment I did. She walked to the center of the stage, making eye contact with alphas throughout the hall. The Northern Territory Sanctuary wasn't built on grand plans or political strategy. It was built on a simple truth. Every wolf deserves protection, care, and dignity. Not just the strong, not just the politically useful. Every wolf. She told them about Tamra and her sisters, escaping forced matings, about Deanna, reclaiming her stolen pension, about the 60 Crescent Moon warriors who chose loyalty to compassionate leadership over loyalty to corrupt tradition. In the past year, our sanctuary has provided refuge to over 80 wolves. Some stayed temporarily and returned to their packs when situations improved. Others made Northern Territory their permanent home. All of them found safety when they needed it most. Kara paused, letting her words sink in. I'm not here to lecture you about morality. I'm here to share what I've learned. Compassion isn't weakness. Protecting your vulnerable members isn't soft. It's the mark of a truly strong pack. Because a pack that cares for all its wolves, not just the powerful, earns loyalty that can't be bought or forced. She looked directly at several alphas she knew had been skeptical of the sanctuary program. Some of you think this makes me naive, that I'm creating a haven for weak wolves who should be cast out, but I've seen what those weak wolves can become when given a chance. Warriors who serve with absolute loyalty, healers who tend your wounded, teachers who pass on knowledge, elders who provide wisdom, all contributing to the pack's strength in different ways. Kara's voice strengthened with conviction. The old way of pack leadership, survival of the strongest. Discard the rest, is dying. It died when Crescent Moon Pack collapsed under the weight of its own corruption. It died when wolves started choosing sanctuary over suffering. It's dying because we, as leaders, have the power to build something better. She gestured to the assembled leaders. I challenge you, all of you, to look at your own packs. How many wolves are suffering in silence? How many feel abandoned by the leadership that should protect them? How many would flee to sanctuary if they knew it existed? Then I challenge you to be the sanctuary your wolves need. Create support systems for widows, orphans, and elders. Eliminate forced matings. Investigate financial corruption. Give your wolves a voice in their own futures. Be the leaders they deserve. The hall remained silent, but Kara could see some alphas nodding, some Lunas wiping tears, some betas looking thoughtful. I was left to die because I spoke truth to power. I survived because one alpha chose to listen, instead of silencing me. Now I'm asking you to listen to your own wolves, to the ones who are struggling, to the ones who need you to be better. She took a breath. Coming to her conclusion, the Northern Territory Sanctuary will continue to provide refuge for any wolf who needs it. But my greatest hope is that someday, we won't need sanctuaries, because every pack will already be a safe place for every wolf within it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for considering change. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak for the wolves who've never had a voice. Kara bowed and stepped back from the center stage. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Gerard Sparks stood, applauding. One by one, other wolves rose. Alphas, Lunas, betas, all standing in respect. The applause was deafening. Kara felt tears prick her eyes as she saw the impact of her words. Not every wolf was applauding. Some alphas remained seated, their expressions skeptical or hostile, but enough were standing. Enough were listening. It was a start. She left the stage to find Elias waiting, his pride radiating through the bond so strongly it nearly overwhelmed her. That, he said, pulling her into his arms, was extraordinary. Did I do okay? You changed minds, opened hearts, maybe even saved some lives. He kissed her forehead. You were magnificent, my Luna. Absolutely magnificent. 6 months later, Kara stood in the sanctuary wing's new expansion, watching construction workers put finishing touches on additional rooms. In the 6 months since the summit, 12 other packs had established their own sanctuary programs, and 5 more were in planning stages. The movement she'd started was spreading. Luna Queen, Tamra appeared, slightly out of breath. She'd become Kara's assistant for sanctuary operations, her organizational skills proving invaluable. We have 3 new arrivals. A family from the Western Territories, parents and 2 young pups. What's their situation? Father was injured in a border skirmish, can no longer hunt. Their alpha told them to either abandon the pups or leave the pack. Tamra's expression was grim. They chose to leave. Send them to the guest quarters. I'll meet with them after I finish here. As Tamra hurried off, Elias joined Kara, Hope riding on his shoulders. Their daughter giggled with delight, grabbing her father's hair. She's discovered hair pulling, Elias said wryly. I may be bald before she's old enough to shift. It's payback for all the times you're overprotective. I'm not overprotective, I'm appropriately cautious. You growled at a 5-year-old pup yesterday for playing too rough near Hope. He was being aggressive. He's 5. Still aggressive. Kara laughed, taking Hope from his shoulders. Their daughter immediately reached for Kara's hair, beginning the same pulling game. You're impossible. You love me anyway. I really do. She kissed him, Hope squirming between them. Have I told you lately how grateful I am? For everything? You don't need to thank me for loving you, Kara. That's not a favor, that's a privilege. His expression turned serious. You've built something incredible here, changed how wolves think about leadership, about compassion, about taking care of their own. I'm in awe of you. We built it. Together, he agreed. Hope squealed, demanding attention. They both laughed, the moment of seriousness broken by their daughter's impatience. As the sun set over Thornridge Manor, Kara thought about the journey that had brought her here. From dying in the snow to building a sanctuary that housed nearly 100 wolves. From powerless victim to Luna Queen whose words carried weight at the highest levels of pack leadership. From abandoned and alone to mated, loved, and surrounded by family and pack. She'd been left in the cold by a wolf who'd seen her as disposable. She'd been found by a wolf who'd taught her she was invaluable. And together, they'd proven that the coldest betrayals could lead to the warmest loves, that survival could become strength, that victims could become advocates, and that a single choice on a snowy forest road could change not just 2 lives, but the future of every wolf in the territories. Kara looked at Elias, at their daughter, at the sanctuary they'd built, and the pack that had become her family. This was home. This was love. This was the legacy she'd built from ashes and snow, and a mate bond she'd never expected. And it was perfect. Epilogue. 5 years later. The monument stood in Thornridge's main courtyard, a statue of a white wolf and a black wolf standing side by side. At the base, an inscription read, For every wolf who survived the cold and found warmth. For every wolf who was discarded and found value. For every wolf who needed sanctuary and found home. May you always be seen, heard, and cherished. Below that, a list of names every wolf who'd passed through the sanctuary in its 5 years of operation. Some had stayed, some had returned to their original packs, some had joined other territories, but all had found safety when they needed it most. Kara stood before the monument with Elias, Hope now 5 years old and already showing signs of alpha dominance. Beside Hope stood their son, 2-year-old Thomas, named for Elias's father who'd died too young. Mama, why is there a statue of you and Papa? Hope asked, her silver eyes curious. It's not just us, sweetheart. It's for every wolf who was brave enough to ask for help, and every wolf who was kind enough to give it. Like the sanctuary wolves? Exactly like the sanctuary wolves. Thomas tugged on Elias's hand. Papa, can we play? Soon, little Alpha. First, we have visitors. A delegation was arriving alphas from 10 different packs, all coming to tour Thornridge's sanctuary and learn how to implement similar programs in their territories. The movement had grown beyond anything Kara had imagined. Sanctuaries existed in 23 territories now. The Interpack Council had established formal guidelines for sanctuary rights, and forced matings had been officially banned by council law. Things were changing. Slowly, but genuinely. Ready to play teacher again? Elias asked Kara, as the delegation approached. Always. These wolves matter, Elias. Every single one we help. Every program we inspire. Every life we change. It matters. I know. He kissed her temple. That's why I love you. You never forgot what it was like to need help. And you've spent 5 years making sure no wolf ever feels that alone again. As the delegation arrived, as tours began, as discussions of sanctuary operations and compassionate leadership filled the courtyard, Kara felt the mate bond pulse with contentment. She'd survived the cold. She'd found her mate. She'd built something that would outlast both of them, a legacy of compassion and second chances. And every day, she looked at Elias and remembered that fateful choice he'd made on a snowy forest road. To stop, to check, to care. That single choice had saved her life and changed the future of every wolf in the territories. Sometimes, Kara thought, the smallest acts of compassion created the biggest ripples. And she would spend the rest of her life ensuring those ripples reached every wolf who needed them. We've reached the end of Kara and Elias's journey from dying in the snow to building a legacy that changed everything. Now I'm curious, would you have accepted help from your greatest enemy? Or would pride have kept you in the cold? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know what choice you'd make. And if this story touched your heart, leave a like so more wolf lovers can find it. Until next time, may the moon goddess guide you to your fated mate.